Good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, March 31st, 2025, Floyd County Board of Supervisor meeting. First thing on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
Move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passed. Second item is public comment. Anyone, and Doug, you want to come up to the podium?
Thank you. I'll just take 2 or 3 minutes of your time. Doug Lindeman, farmer, north of Charles City. I don't believe on today's agenda you have anything with regard to the wind towers, but I just want to kind of make sure we're all on the same page there. A week ago, I filed a short news article editorial with Charles City Press. I've never had as much positive feedback from one editorial in my life, talking about the need to have wind towers and the $30,000 it would generate in property tax, the $20,000 of farm rent in each of those cases. By keeping that 100 wind towers out of Floyd County, by restricting them, we might be losing $3 million of tax revenue for the school and the county each year. And we need to keep weighing that. In the past, we've talked about damage wind towers have caused down south somewhere. One kind of blew up, put plastic in the fields. I checked on that. Fly-by-night farmer dealing with a fly-by-night contractor. If you're going to limit windmills to 20 or less going up, you're going to get the fly-by-nighters. The people that know how to build windmills want to build 50, 80, 100 at a time. So I think you need to decide what kind of people you want building windmills in this county. Fourth, as you look at the mediation report that's supposed to be coming in, I guess, shortly, keep in mind you didn't have any farmers on that board. People who are actually getting in a tractor, planting a crop, were not represented there. One of the big factors with regard to windmills is farmers want to have agrivoltaics. They're producing power like they produce soybeans, produce beef, voltage, and it's a farm issue. If I decide to build one, I want to build 3 of them. My neighbors want to build 3. That's a farming issue, and it's beyond the scope of zoning in this state. It should be left up to the state, not to the county. I'd like to have you keep weighing these issues carefully. The public likes to see more revenue coming in by growing our tax base. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Anyone else? Public comments, anyone on the phone? All right, don't hear anybody or see anybody. So, item 3, review action regarding the approval of the 2025 minute, March 24th, 2025 minutes.
I talked to Morgan about a few things that needed to be corrected, but those are all done with that last one she sent out, so I would make a motion to approve.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell, to approve the March 24th, 2025 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Item 4, review action regarding approval of claims.
I have one question on general services from Department 51. Transport to Ankeny for $3,1908. What is that? Somebody tell me.
Medical examiner, travel one.
I don't understand. My tech.
Is that in Department 51?
Yeah, down there.
How much was it again for you?
$3,019.08.
Lexi, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Could you give us some details on claim number 2288?
So that was a transport that AMR did for an autopsy.
Is there a reason?
Transported to Ankeny.
Is there a reason it's not in Department 28 instead of Department 51?
Nope, that might be an error. I'm looking into it right now.
That would have been to the medical examiner then, right, Lexi?
Yep.
It actually would have been to AMR because they're the ones that did the transport.
No, what I mean, the trip was to.
To
Yeah,
Ankeny.
yeah,
Okay.
Yep,
okay.
yep, that does look like it needs to be out of 28, so I will make that correction.
Perfect. Catch, Boyd.
Flying squirrel finds a
Did
nut.
that once in
Which
a while.
one?
Any other comments on the claims? Yeah, I entertain a motion.
Make a motion and
Is that correction?
with the correction.
A second.
Okay, motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve the claims for March, last week, for dated March 31st, with the correction that Lexi's gonna make. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Updates on various boards, commissions, and activities since the last meeting.
The Friday had a Zoom juvenile detention center out in Aurora, and which a lot of problems there. And what's going on? I mean, a lot of controversy about getting their information and all this, and that's one take out of it. Another was the cost that associated with keeping the juvenile, and the audio wasn't always so good. Then talking about the differences in the state between what some counties pay and this particular one. I thought they said Polk County, if they have their own juvenile, and ours being something like $250 a day, and Polk County being over $700 a day. But there's a lot going on there, which I'm sure I'll work. It's not cheaper.
No, and it's out of our control.
Yes, so, and that's
I had a county social services meeting. Floyd County was the host for county social services last Wednesday. Just a heads up that they have several vehicles across the 12 counties, and they are going to get a price from a dealer on the value of those vehicles. This is for their transitions to close them out. The counties will be offered that bottom line for that price from that dealer, and to purchase the vehicles just by, I suppose, some sort of a silent bid or something like that, just to the counties, the member counties. And then whenever, if they don't sell them all, then they would make them available to the public or sell them to a dealer or whatever. That'll be left up to the discretion of the director. They also have office furniture. Like say we have desks and tables up in our office upstairs. If the member county if the county is hosting workers, they have the option to just keep that furniture if they want to. If they don't need it, then the same thing, they'll put it out there for all the counties, and if any other counties can use that furniture, they can purchase it. Otherwise they'll sell it. Otherwise, they did some changes with the contract with one of the workers that works in Norris Springs. Is that contract ends in May, and so rather than they rent space from Mark Dix's building over in Norris Springs, and rather than starting a new contract for a month, they've decided not to. Renew that, and so they changed some policies to allow employees to work from home remotely for those types of situations. So they're working on that transition to close things up. I did get an email from after the meeting from one of the people wanting to know if Floyd County would be interested in sharing an HR person and just general assistance stuff and mental health advocate. And so they have talked with a Mitchell County supervisor who's asked for my contact information. So I had responded that, I don't know that we have a budget to add somebody to share, but it would have to be something we'd have to look into and see how we want to do things. I met with Gail Arges regarding general assistance, and she is interested in doing general assistance for Floyd County. There are other entities that are counties that do general assistance, so that's an option for us if you still want to consider North Iowa Area Community Action or something like that. Those are options out there as well to consider. I did meet with Amy, Jesse, and Morgan regarding, and I met with Gail on wages also, and had told her about that change from the 2.75 to the 5.5, that difference in wages and FICA and IPERS, that her budget would have to be reduced. We would prefer that it kind of match up with wages to other levels of employees. She seems willing to work with the board on doing that accommodation, maybe of reducing something in the budget and wages. So we'll should be getting something from her at some point. Then I met with Amy, Jesse, and Morgan to talk about the wages in the budget for that $24 and the differences from the public health wages and the wages in the sheriff's staff as well. So we can talk more about that during budget. And I listened to Gail sent us all an email on the Department of Health and Human Services realignment related to public health. I did listen to that. Don't know that I got really anything new on that. I just worked while I was listening to it, but did hear that. And then again, I don't know, I've mentioned before about the ISAC's legislative updates. I'm not sure if you guys are watching those webinars. Very good webinars about what's going on with bills that are in the state legislation right now. One of the key people on the video this time was District 10 Senator Dan Dawson, who is the sponsor of the property tax reform bill. Very good information in that video. One of the takeaways from that is they also mentioned to review that, share the taxation, the link that Brandy had also sent in the email to all of us. It's a 20-page report that talks about the impacts of this bill that's out there. So look at that if you can. Great points on that document. It's a long read, but it's a good read. For members, they expect that there's going to be a lot of changes with this property tax reform bill on both sides yet. They are going to be working with assessors, or have been working with assessors, to make sure that they're going to be able to do this new construction part. And Brandy had sent us that email last week about some concerns about the cost of software to get things to do what we needed to do. So legislators are conscientious of that as well, and how to make that happen. They would like feedback on this 5-year transition. There has been talk about it might be easier just instead of doing a 5-year transition to rip the Band-Aid off earlier and do it quicker, because of the impact of doing away with rollbacks and all the credits and exemption changes that they're doing, and also a law that says you can't start one new tax system before finishing another tax system. So the transition is kind of a sloppy thing. And then there's been some concerns with that bill on how TIF is going to be, any TIF projects would be handled. Senator Dawson, his take on that was first he wants to get a system in place, and there's probably gonna be things that need to be worked out, but they will, work on that. With the, after they kind of get something going in the direction for the reform. Tax TIF is kind of the later part of what they're trying to fix with property tax reform.
My take on part of that is there's so much up in the air yet that it's, I'm not sure anybody knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, quite honestly, I mean, it's all. So confusing.
They are expecting, there's a lot of amendments to the bills as they are. You know, there's the forest reserve that's an issue. There's how ag buildings
Yeah.
that would be treated more like residential values and instead of or buildings instead of the ag property values. So there's a lot of things out there.
The hog buildings would be treated differently.
Yes,
Coming up.
Yep.
Haven't been treated, yeah, it's.
yeah, whether they're, who owns them, if it is the farmer, or if it's a commercial
so I-
operation, otherwise.
Yeah. You spend a lot of hours looking at that and
Yeah.
getting nowhere, but.
But I think the general consensus was the property tax farm bill that was pushed to us a couple of years ago is not the best resolution, so, I think they're going in the right direction. But there's just gonna be some tweaks that are gonna have to be made to it.
All right. Is that all?
Yeah, it's enough.
I attended the Chamber Business Improvement meeting. One of the Whitewater area on the Cedar River, there's been a Randy and Vanessa Wilsey's had a business where they rented canoes and stuff, and they're gonna sell that equipment. And Mark thought that maybe Ace Hardware would be interested in buying it, and he was gonna check into that, but, so that was the extent of my meetings. Going on to we're gonna skip down to item 9, 10, and 15. Our county attorney is here, and Mr. Pritchard has got a court meeting this morning. It's kind of
I got about
important.
10 minutes, so.
Yeah, come on up and fill us in on what's going on, Todd.
Yeah, so, I guess what do you want, I don't have the agenda in front of me, what do you want to talk about? I think. we've got-
Number 9 is terminating the 2080 agreement with Sarah Gordo ending June 30.
Right. So, I'll kind of give you the background on this, on the 2080 agreement. Years ago, probably about 15 years ago, the legislature set up, a program for county attorneys to do collections. And without that program, offenders can kind of be stuck, because if you can't pay your fine in full, you're not eligible for your license. But if you're making payments, you can get a temporary license, and then that helps people keep their job, pay their fines, and hopefully not reoffend. And so a lot of counties were kind of quick to set up a payment program, a county attorney payment program. There are some requirements, though, that if you're gonna have a payment program, you have to meet thresholds, you have to do a certain amount of collections. And so that it was an incentive for small counties like ours to kind of pool together and do a collection program in clusters. And so when I was the assistant years ago, we tried to pool together with Chickasaw because we thought we could meet the requirements. And we kind of realized it was a staffing issue that we weren't going to be able to kind of ramp up to where we needed to be. So I know with Rachel Gimby, 2022, before she resigned and before I came back, was she did this 28E with Sarah Gordo, and at least provided a program for Floyd County folks to have a way to pay their fines and keep their license. So it's been a good thing. There have been some administrative issues with it, and my staff verified that we do owe what Sarah Gordo was saying, because it looks like the money was not split. Now the split with Sarah Gordo was 90-10 in their favor. That's a little atypical. Typically it's 50-50. And so, I've reached out to Cerro Gordo. One, I sent them a letter saying, you know, we wish to terminate. That's our intent, to terminate, so we're not bound by this contract because it has an automatic renewal clause in it. So I sent that letter last year. But then I also said, you know, would you be interested in a better split? And I suggested like 65-35 or something like that. And I have no response from their county attorney in Cerro Gordo. In the meantime, I've been contacted by Benton County, by their county attorney, and they have taken this and they have really kind of built a program. And they've I think, you know, it's fair to say they've turned themselves into a hub. And so they do collections for a number of other counties, including Dubuque, which would be a large county. And I know they've got Bremer. I don't know if there's a few others that you're aware of, Gloria.
I just knew Bremer,
Bremer.
but I know there's more.
Yeah, there are more, but so they definitely meet the threshold, and they want us to join, and do our collections. And so they have four-person staff, on staff at Benton County. It's bigger than my whole office, the administrative staff, that's just dedicated to collections. And so I think there's some real potential because, you know, you've talked with the sheriff's department, you know, about like medical bills and ambulance costs, that we should be looking for reimbursement. I think this might be a way to do those types of collections too, potentially. I don't want to say that too strongly at the onset, but I think there might be some possibility for that because I'll be honest, we just don't have the staff to do collection work, like, you know, but, you know, in talking to him, he's got the staff, he's got some programs and some software that can help track down people that owe money, you know, and finding where they work. And he's got some of that access through the Iowa Department of Workforce, or the Workforce Development. So I think, you know, one, he's anxious. He's got I think as part of the packet, the proposed 2080 is there.
Yep.
And so what I spoke with Dennis last week about, what I would suggest is to resend the cancellation letter to Cerro Gordo, just to make sure that that's not a question. And then to enter into 2080 with Benton County. I emailed the county attorney there, and he said, let me know what I can do. So if you want to have another, you know, meeting, include him or something, that kind of hear from him, that would be fine. But I have spoken with him on the phone and email. I'm quite comfortable that they can meet our needs. And like I said, it's very important that we have this program because, you know, without this program, people that owe fines, they lose their license until they pay all their fines off. And it's kind of hard to keep a job without a license. So I like this program because, one, the offender is paying their bills. So the fine, the punishment is being, you know, it's happening. And then we do get a cut. Floyd County does get a cut as an incentive to have this program. Yeah.
Are we prepared in our end to handle this differently than we did Cerro Gordo County?
Well, yes, I think so. We've got to figure out. I think with Benton County, it'd be a smoother process because I think from our end, we just need to make sure that we tell the clerk where the money goes and we divide the money appropriately. So
Can we set up a special fund for our share of this money to go to instead of,
It's already there.
what's that?
It's already there. It
Yeah.
already is.
Yeah, and then the county.
That's
Yeah, I've got like a fund identified, a code, right?
14,500 code that you see in your budget.
The first time with Cerro Gordo County, that didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think it happened.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
In that 2080 that we had with them, what I read was that Cerro Gordo County would collect it and then send us our share.
yeah.
So when I look at this, I mean, it was pretty clear.
See but how it works in reality is that the person who owes the money goes to the clerk of court and cuts a check or, presents the check or their payment. And then the clerk actually takes the money and then it's coded. Okay, this case is part of the county collection, it's subject to that. And then the clerk of court gives us the money and we just have to know where to route it, whether it gets split with Benton, whether it gets to the county or to, the pot with the county attorney's fund.
So was it their clerk of court or ours?
Well,
That didn't get this routed right.
I really don't know. I think it was a poor handshake between the clerk of court and the two counties, to be honest.
So, in your estimation, looking at Saragordo County and you propose 5, but, this has gone back to 2022. And obviously, I guess we owe them. I don't know why all the money came to us though, I just really don't.
I don't either.
I don't get that. But, for them to miss it, and then we didn't know where we were putting it, wouldn't it be more reasonable? I mean, and we owe money, I guess, that pay it back over 3 years. It took 3 years to get us, instead of all of a sudden we're gonna get dinged in our budget all at once. I mean, in your estimation, I think that's reasonable, isn't it? Or
You could try, I don't want to speak for Cerro, but I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot of money.
it is
$6,000
for one time,
Yeah.
but I didn't set up the budget the way it is.
Yeah.
My thoughts on that is we've had the money since the beginning. Well, even Cerro Gordo paid us a couple of payments that first year. And now they're asking for that back as well. But it's not that we didn't have the money, we've had the money. So whatever happened with this whole thing, I don't have any clue either. But I would say just get it wrapped up this fiscal year. Just get it over with, get it done, start fresh with Benton County.
So where's that
And
money come from?
What's that?
So where's that money come from then?
It's
I
been
mean,
going
we
in
have-
the general fund.
We have a positive balance then in the clerk of court.
In the general fund we
in the
do.
general fund,
We would have to, because there's lots of departments in the general fund.
I
So
know,
there is
but
money
I
in the
mean,
general
what,
fund.
we robbed some of them then to pay for this.
No, it's carryover balance.
We don't have to amend the budget
Oh yeah, you'll have to amend the budget.
if we do it this fiscal year.
Yes. You have to amend the budget, but I think there's carryover fund dollars to go. But I did see Benton County has a,
Yep.
it says,
Todd needs to go, so we're gonna,
I think there's one more item with,
with the new deputy.
assistant. And so I spoke with him over the weekend, like to, start with him July 7th, and that works pretty well.
July 7th.
Yeah, new graduate from Creighton. He graduated from University of Florida, has a master's from Georgetown. Has a lot of good experience in terms, clerkships and internships, so I'm pleased that, excited about him coming to the community.
Is he a local gentleman or from the area?
No, his wife is, or his fiance is, from Iowa, he's looking for a nursing job, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, he's from he's from Florida originally. And, he's anxious to start out here, so I
So
would like
April
to,
7th,
July 7th.
so July 7th.
Yep, and then like to start him at 85. And I would just tell you, I don't want to miss this opportunity because Randy will be retiring. A lot of county attorneys' offices across the state have a shortage. So we've got somebody that's anxious to come here. So I highly recommend you.
And Randy is done officially now or?
July 1st.
July 1st, okay.
So yeah, we'll have a few days. The holiday in there, be easy to cover, but Randy was out sick earlier a few weeks ago and I covered for a couple of weeks without him. It's hard to be in two places at once.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Appreciate it.
Okay, that's it. I gotta get upstairs.
All right. So we'll go back up to item 6.
Morgan,
Are you guys gonna vote on that, or are you gonna come back?
we got a number 9 that we can vote on, or we can come back.
You can come back to them, I just wanna make sure we don't
We
skip.
can come
Oh,
back.
you're talking about the 2080 agreement with Benton County?
I'm talking about
Number 9 and
the
number
28
10.
E with Sarah Golden County that he mostly spoke on.
Terminating that.
But we can go back since we have people waiting.
Yeah, let's go do that. So
Right.
item 6 is review action regarding signing agent of record letters for First Main Street for the following companies: Travelers, Iowa Communities Insurance Pool, ICAP, and the Iowa Municipalities Workers' Compensation Association, IMWCA. We have John Freeze and Joe Benz. Joe's on the. So we'll let you guys get started with that, explain what's going
Said
on.
that you can nominate that. Cardi said they can.
Joe, are you on?
I am, and I apologize. I'm trying to get my video on just so I'm visible. Not that anybody probably cares all that much, but it's not allowing me to. It says it's disabled. So I'm attempting to, but don't need to if that's not an option.
I would guess that's part of our new settings, is not allowing me to have video.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yep, no problem at all.
I can probably go in and allow.
you might be able to go in and tell them we can't. What's his name?
Either way, I'll get started here, and then if it allows, I can certainly switch that on. But appreciate the opportunity to present this morning. I don't have a ton as far as presentation. I think generally, what we're looking to do, from my understanding, we originally proposed 2 options to the county when it came to how they could evaluate or review insurance offerings. Number 1 was doing a broker RFP process where you guys ask a lot of questions. You kind of bid out agent services, current agent, us, and then any others you posted to that wanted to respond would respond with why they feel like they would be the best insurance agent. And then the county ultimately selects and votes on that process, whoever they determine to be the most suitable. If you went that route, you would then sign agent of record letters for anybody and everybody. So that would be EMC, ICAP, IMWCA, Travelers, and any other markets that wanted to put a bid on it. From my understanding, that option was not preferred by the county. I think what was preferred was to see insurance company bids. And so the current agent has the county with EMC insurance. When we originally presented, I know we had a very in-depth discussion about other insurance companies that do offer coverage to counties like Floyd County. And so in that meeting, I kind of talked at length about Travelers, IMWCA, and ICAP and how they all play in this space. The reality is the county can only get a quote per insurance company from 1 agent. So you can't get a bid with EMC from the current agent and a bid from EMC from us. You can't do that with Travelers or IMWCA or ICAP. You essentially select which agent has access to which market. So I looked back and just did a general timeline to make sure that I felt like we were in alignment with what we're requesting here to get those agent of record letters signed for Travelers, ICAP, and IMWCA. So just very brief, high-level overview. February 10th was that first meeting that I attended with John there in person. That's where we spoke about the different markets, including Travelers, ICAP, and IMWCA. On February 11th, I had sent a follow-up email. In that email, it states that we would start, if it's a bid process, we would start with a request for information and then get to work with ICAP, IMWCA, Travelers, and any other markets that we mutually identify. On March 3rd, there was a meeting, and transparently, I was not at that meeting. I had a city finance committee meeting that was already pre-scheduled I couldn't get out of. But my understanding is the board decided and voted to secure bids for the upcoming renewal. That was kind of the action item, was we want to get bids for insurance. On that same day, March 3rd, I had sent an email based on discussion with John with that request for information, and those agent of record letters were included on that email from March 3rd. And then also on that same date, I had sent out a notification to those insurance companies that, hey, we might have an opportunity with Floyd County. Just wanted to give you a heads up that you could see submissions come through once we get the requested information. And then I had spoken to Morgan after that and tried to explain the process to her about kind of one agent getting access per market. So that's the timeline that I have. We're requesting access to those markets because in order for us to give the county a competitive bid and to do what we think is our job on behalf of the county, those are the markets that we know could potentially have a offer that the county would consider for an insurance placement that is alternative to what you currently have with EMC. And kind of final note that I have here, just general rule, and I think that this is all very complex. Insurance is complicated. General rule of thumb for me is if an agent who has an account has brought options and has had discussions in the past and said, hey, I have you with EMC today, but there's other markets that will write this. Travelers and ICAP and IMWCA are options. Here's the benefits. Do you want to get bids? If it is discussed and it's mutually agreed to that no, we feel like EMC is the right home for us, I wouldn't feel right about asking to take over a bid opportunity on insurance companies that have been brought to you and discussed and that the county has turned down. So if that's the case, and there's documentation of that, then by all means, we shouldn't be involved if those options have been brought in the past. But I do think it's fair if John and I came and present to the county and we're the ones that are identifying these different markets and talking to you about it. I think it's fair for us to ask to have access to those insurance companies to try and get bids for the county. So that's just general rule of practice. But I understand that this is a complex topic of discussion and it's never easy to differentiate what's right and how do we do it. So our goal of today is to ask for those letters to be signed, but to just have general discussion on what it would look like, next steps moving forward if we did have access to those companies. So that's really what I had for presentation purposes. Happy to answer any questions or have additional discussion there.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Mark, would you like to make some comments or?
Sure. Can I come up to the?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, they still have access to these companies. It's a competitive bid situation that was opened up on March the 3rd. At that point, the gun went off. Agents have to, on a first-in basis with other companies, have to start the process and get it in, get the information. So I'm a small agency. I don't have the resources of larger. I started it right away for two reasons. Number one, I'm a small agency and I want to get backed up. Number two, like you mentioned Travelers, they're first in. So I started the process and I filled out over 60 pages of applications. To this date, I've spent over a month. And I've even asked, I was up with Morgan a couple weeks ago. I said, has anybody requested the EMC information?
I put it together. Gloria had mentioned at the March 3rd meeting, will you put that together? And I said, yeah, I'll put it together. So I haven't had a call from the county, from Sisson and Associates, from any other agent in town saying, hey, send us the stuff and where to send it. Just sitting here waiting. I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm starting early. And I've gone ahead and done over a month's worth of work. And the thing that he brings up about not having access, they do have access. I've already sent my applications into Travelers, who now has to look at it to see if it's a qualified submission. And that's what I'm waiting for. So I'm not really sure what, the other question is, should an agent that's currently carrying EMC then be able to quote? Why not? I've never heard that where another agent wouldn't go out. That's what I am, an independent insurance agent. So think of it this way. Let's say you have home insurance and you want to go shop it. It's pretty easy to do it every couple of years if you want. Shopping county insurance, as Gloria knows, sitting in that chair, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort. And EMC has always been positioned very well, and their property rates are fantastic in this market. There's been no reason to do that. And for me to come in every 3 to 5 years to say, hey, let's go shop it, I open the door up for everybody and we go shop. But I've never been directed by the county either to please shop our insurance. And that's something that I work with my clients on. Sissons has EMC on the city, and they also have it on the school. That hadn't been shopped for years. So there's a reason for that. EMC is a good company. I would like to read something very quickly. I want to address this issue. Since that decision, I've worked diligently, spending over a month compiling detailed applications. I've been talking to county heads to gather updated information and submitting it to Travelers. It's because they operate on a first qualified submission basis. I acted immediately when the bid process opened, understanding this was a competitive environment where timing matters. I started right away. I also have had EMC information ready and available to any agent who requested it, but to date I have received no calls, emails, requests from Sisson and Associates or any other competing. Nobody has contacted me. I've got the information, I could send it out in 5 minutes. So I'm scratching my head going, isn't anybody doing work on this right now? I guess I'm the only one. So I continued on, and I've been working with Travelers to get this quote. At this stage, I understand that Sisson and Associates is asking you to revisit this previous decision. On March the 3rd, you guys discussed the AOR, agent of record, and you all said, if I recall, you wouldn't sign that because it squashes competition. Sissons is saying they don't have access to these markets unless you sign it. They've had access from March 3rd. Everybody's had access. What you do is you go back to your office and you start work. And that's where agents have to deal with this first in policy. At this late stage, I understand they want to revisit this. Frankly, this appears to be an attempt to change the rules after the fact simply because they did not move as quickly as I did. If the board reverses its decision now, it would undermine the integrity of the competitive bidding process. A fair bidding process means all agents play by the same rules. Changing the process midstream would send the wrong message to vendors considering future bids. Penalize those who work efficiently and reward inaction. I took the initiative as soon as the bidding opened. The competing agency had the same opportunity but delayed their efforts. It's unfair to penalize me simply because I acted swiftly and they did not. Waste of significant time and effort already invested. I've spent countless hours compiling these applications. And to sign an agent of record letter now wipes out everything I've done, despite my full compliance with the process set here on March 3rd. It sets a dangerous precedent for future county contracts that the board allows vendors to influence rule change after bidding has started. What stops this from happening in the future? It discourages businesses from bidding and could ultimately cost the county lost competition. Finally, disregard to due diligence and transparency. The county's goal should be the best coverage at the best price. There's no question. I understand, let's say you're with an agency and they're they're not servicing your policy. They're not answering phone calls. They're not getting back to you in a immediate way. They're not professional. We've handled this account for 17 years. Gloria mentioned in the previous meeting, she works great with us. I've had other boards that have said the same thing. I keep a daily log called a service log. When somebody calls, my office makes it a priority to get back to the county within a 24-hour period or less, like certificates of insurance. If there's an issue with EMC, I immediately communicate back. I've got to go back to the underwriter and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. We've followed up in a professional manner and we've serviced this county as best we can. So it's not an issue like, we don't like this agent anymore. We need to move. So now it's the county needs the best possible quote. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm going out. Travelers might not be the best possible quote. I'm not going to get it and lock it out. I'm going to bring it and show it to you if I get that. Travelers still has not approved it yet. I don't know why they keep saying they don't have access to markets and they can only get it by signing that letter. So signing the letter cuts me out. And it becomes an unfair, it becomes a biased decision on my part because we already started on March the 3rd after the meeting and it was in the paper that it's open for bid. So I appreciate your time. I'm sorry if I get a little long-winded, but do you have any questions for me at all or?
I just would ask, and I don't care who answers this, or all of you answer it, Mark or Joe or John or whoever. My understanding when we did this before is like EMC was the one before that said, we're going to provide one quote, one bid. We don't care which agent you pick. We're just going to give you this, the quote, the price is going to be the same no matter which agent. And so I guess I go with that. If I don't want to cut anybody out, whether it's, you know, Sissons or Mark or Clover dances down the road or whoever. I thought that's what we did with that agent of record decision on March 3rd as well.
Well, on the March 3rd meeting, we discussed their companies are different. So EMC at the time, that's how they did it. It's crazy for agents, number one. And Dennis, I'm sure you probably understand this too. But the day after, this is Cornhusker was the company that was with the county, and People's Insurance had it, so it was open for bid. The day of that meeting, when they opened up for bid, I called People's and said, "Look, I need your information on Cornhusker. I got to start filling out applications." Bob Ingram, one of the former owners of Sissons, did the same thing. He called them direct, and we both worked on this thing, which is kind of crazy. And you send it into EMC Insurance, and their policy was, we'll each give you, you're both agents, we'll each give you one. The county can decide on how they want to do that. Travelers is a first in, and that's what some companies do. So they were looking at a number of companies they're talking about. The other companies they want to lock up, that's up to them, but I'm a Travelers agent. I'm going to certainly go out for a quote if it's requested by the county. And if you read the paperwork, it says, the Traveler says, get it in as soon as you can, because there may be inspections we need to do. One of those inspections is they like to inspect LECs or jails. Obviously yours is brand new, so it's not that big of a deal, but they like to go in and inspect jails before they even quote. So I looked at the paperwork and said, I better get going on this. And that's what I've been doing. But they also said, the first qualified application that comes in, and they gave me the qualifications, then we'll look to clear the account. And clearing the account means, okay, we're going to give it to you. So as an agent, we're in competition. First thing I do is I'm going to get going. I'm going to start work. And I did. And that's what I'm waiting for from Travelers right now. So Sissons is asking you guys to cut me out after I just put in almost 2 months worth of work on the ground rules that were set on March 3rd. I actually started calling Travelers and working with them February 10th, the day they first came and asked possibly open it up. Again, I'm an agent. I'm going to sit here and go, okay, this is my business. So I started calling Travelers and going, well, if it does go up for bid, what are the procedures? Send me the information. So I've spent almost 2 months on this. I really don't know why we're revisiting this today. I don't know what's changed and why we're revisiting it, so. Did you have any other questions for me at all?
I don't make, is the rest of the board, do you have a question or?
Trying to get this all.
Yeah.
Understand this, you know, but it seems to me like, the last time we met and talked that, you know, we talked about getting bids, but, it seems that we overshot maybe, the understanding of the date of that March 3rd.
Mhm.
And I definitely do not want to jeopardize the integrity of this county and following the rules and not cutting somebody out and rewriting the rules at this date. And if that's what we've done, that is definitely not my intention.
You haven't done that though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tell you this. what you have.
Citizens has said they don't have access to these markets right now and they want you to sign to get access. They want you to sign to cut me out. They still have access to Travelers, to ICAP, to IW, whatever. They have access. Nobody's been cut out. It's our job as agents to prepare this information and send it. Travelers happens to be a first in. EMC says, I'll give it to whoever is an agent. So that's what our job is as agents. Okay, you guys fired the gun, go, let's open it up for bids. It was in the paper. I'm doing my job. I don't know why they're back unless they just haven't started yet. And they're looking at it going, uh-oh.
Well,
Can I make a comment to that? Is that okay?
Sure, John, or Joe, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments from Mark. I understand his position and frustration. But the fact of the matter is we haven't sat on this for a month and done nothing. In order to get a submission in, you have to have enough information to send in what Mark called a qualified submission. So what we did is, following the March 3rd meeting, we requested that day from the county access to information, and we requested these letters on that date. The reason for the letter is, as Mark stated, one agent has access to one company. So the concept of we have access to Travelers today, respectfully, is factually inaccurate. I can't send in a submission. The market is blocked. And we don't have the information on hand that the current agency has because they write the account. So they have your property schedules, they have your vehicle list, your equipment inventory. We can't send without having that information. And so that's why on March 3rd, and we followed up since, we requested all of that and tried to make this process very clear when we requested those letters be signed. I feel like we brought those options. We came to that February 10th meeting and said, if we were going to go to market, we would go to Travelers, we would go to ICAP, we would go to IMWCA. So I respect everything Mark is saying, and I can appreciate the frustration, but we haven't been sitting on this without any action for a month. We've requested the information the day that the meeting happened, but the current agent is at a competitive advantage based on them having all the information on file and us not having that. So if the process was we were supposed to request that directly from the agent, then I apologize in my misunderstanding of that. But typically the information request goes directly to the client themselves, and they gather what information they have and request from the agent the information that they don't have. We tried to lay that out in a very organized manner and annotate where we think that the county would probably have to request information from the agent. So we feel like we did our due diligence there, but I just wanted to give that as context or background.
I would comment back, you mentioned the agent that has the existing business has a competitive advantage. 17 years ago when we did this, I would say that's true because for this fact. So Peoples had Cornhuskers. When I called them and said, I need the information, Peoples then has to go and take a huge policy and literally scan everything or copy it and go get loss runs and get all this information. Nothing was digital back then. It took work. So it took time. And an agent could drag his feet, right? And go, okay, we'll just trickle it out while we do all this work. That doesn't exist anymore. I've got all digital files. I can easily send this. And I had it ready to go 2 days after, but I have gotten no phone calls from Sisson and Associates or any other agency or even the county saying, hey, somebody's asking us for this. Can you send it to them? And I mentioned earlier, I sat with Morgan 2 weeks and I'm going, has anybody asked for this yet? Has anybody, Sissons? Nothing.
So is it just a matter of now just providing that information?
I can provide that information.
To Sissons,
Yes.
and maybe providing it to Morgan in case anybody else asks for it.
Yes.
That it's out there and we don't have to do this letter of agent of record.
Right. Yes.
Joe, what's your feeling on that?
If that's the decision from the county, again, I respect that, but the reality is we don't have, like, we cannot go get travelers and EMC quotes is what it seems like that's being stated, and that is not reality. In this case, we do not have access. We can't get an EMC quote. We can't get a traveler's quote at this point. And
Joe, why don't you have access to Travelers? Has Travelers told you that you can't send in a submission? Have they told that?
Mark, respectfully, you are the one that mentioned they have a first in policy, so they're blocked. I've worked with Travelers on plenty of these deals. Once you send in a submission, the only way for John and I to get a quote is if the county signs an agent of record letter that appoints us as the agent that they select to go to that market.
So, go ahead.
So would then, Mark, have you done anything with the other two entities, ICAP and IWMCA?
No. Because I'm an agent with Travelers and that's where I went. So.
Okay, and so is that an option then to provide that information to Sissons so that they can do those two quotes? And then my understanding again is still, we could have whatever agent we wanted to have. We could, if we decide EMC is the best quote, but we want to give Sisson Associates a chance, there's a form to fill out to change the agent of record for our policy if we decide to go that way, right?
If you decide to do that, but
Yeah, to transfer that agent.
yeah, for cause, I would think. Yeah. Not just to say, well, let's just move it around, you know.
Well, and I only say that because that's one of the things that was talked about 18 years ago or whenever it
Sure.
was, that every few years we would maybe change that agent of record. But then we decided not to, just because probably for the same reasons that the school and the city have stayed with one agent.
Sure.
Rather than changing all the time, that agent knows the information. So would that be an option that Sisson, Joe gets to bid those other two companies? And then Mark would have Travelers and EMC and Joe would have the other two that provide us bids.
Just a quick comment. First of all, I agree with Mark's assessment that to me, if he's going to do all the work and get to the very end, it would not be my recommendation to get to the very end and have you all sign an agent of record letter to appoint us with EMC. That would be an option, but I wouldn't recommend that unless there was some type of grossly negligent behavior, as Mark said, cause. So I want to state that on the front end. I agree with his assessment there.
And I would concur with that, I don't expect that we would, because we haven't had issues.
Yeah.
ADMC is the lowest bid.
Yeah, and I know that there's public entity accounts that they all have different rules of, hey, let's switch this every 3 years to be fair. Let's flip a coin and appoint based on that. And I never recommend that either. I think that I just don't agree with that as a philosophy. So I wanted to state that on the front end just for clarity. As far as bidding the others, that's certainly an opportunity. IMWCA is a work comp only carrier. ICAP is an assurance pool that we do have clients with. We work with them a lot. They are one program's not better than the other, but we discussed this at the February 10th meeting. They are different by nature. And Gloria, I think you're familiar with the concept of ICAP and maybe have even shared some hesitation just about their setup and how they work with if you have claims that are ongoing and open and you look to exit the program in the future, you take those with you. So our goal of having travelers at ICAP is it was our hope that we could show you a traditional insurance quote. We could show you ICAP's setup, allow you to make a decision on which one of those two you liked best, and then compete with the incumbent renewal. So I state all of that. It's certainly an option. Wouldn't be our preferred method, but if that's what the county elects into, we could do that. It's just I would want to be very transparent about the setup and differences between the markets.
And I think it's also important to realize we didn't start this exercise because the board didn't have anything else to do. We've been working on the budget for 3 months and a couple of weeks ago, I sent an email to all the department heads asking them to find some efficiencies in their budget if they could do it, even as small as 1% savings. And that's why I thought it was important, for the same reason I thought it was important to look at, this is a big ticket item for the county. And if we can save some money, so be it. If we can't, we can't. But I think we need to find out. We need to check. That was my motivation for starting this ball game.
And I will say that Citizens John has had several times, he's come into the auditor's office and every time I would talk to our chair at that, Board of Supervisor chair at that time, and it was, the chair opted to not put it out there and to know, whatever he wanted to do, I put it on the agenda or not put it on the agenda. So Citizens has been made multiple attempts to try to get to this point. But I don't know, hearing all of this, I don't know that there's any advantage if it's ideally is there's only one agent of record. Why would we change it to somebody else at this point? If they all could give the same information or I don't know about that happening.
And that's the way a couple weeks ago, whatever, that I thought maybe that we not do, that we stay where we were. I guess I still feel that way, that we, at this point, just open up a can of worms.
And I still, what Dennis says, it doesn't hurt to look.
Yes.
But if we can have travelers and I don't know about the other two, I do have my thoughts on ICAP. And if the other one is only work comp, that doesn't do us any good.
Yeah.
Unless we separate that from the EMC policy. But
Joe, would you, or could you, or would you be able to go to ICAP without a letter, an agent letter of record and get a quote?
On ICAP, we can, yes.
Okay. The other one, like Roy just mentioned, probably isn't in the, even should be considered the IMWCA, because they're just workman's comp only, correct?
Yeah, basically if we're gonna pursue an ICAP quote, we would pursue an IMWCA quote as well, because you want to match up if you do move to ICAP. I don't know if EMC would want to stay on the workers' compensation without the package supporting lines. They may, but typically if you move to ICAP from EMC, you also move your work comp business to IMWCA or another vendor. So if we're going to pursue ICAP, we would also pursue IMWCA as well.
Which could change everything back again. I mean, and we get nowhere. So, you know,
Well, you've got a dollar amount to see if it's worth changing or not to someone else.
That's what, that would be the driving point for me.
Yeah,
If we could save 100 grand a year or whatever, 50,000, if it's worth it to the county and the taxpayers for that savings and the budget's tight, you know, Boyd. I think we need to find out. That's my feeling, I guess. If there's anything else, and if there's not, there's not, but at least we tried.
Joe and John, do you even want to mess with it if it's only ICAP and IWC?
Joe, you mean, or John?
Joe and John, yeah. Or is that something Mark can do? I don't want to cause more work for anybody else if it's not necessary.
If
No,
Sisson's quote, I'll go in and get an ICAP bid, but I'm not bidding it right now. I
Yeah,
know what ICAP is too, and I have reservations about it myself, but in terms of a pool versus a standard company. But I'm not quoting it. But if Sissons doesn't want to quote at this point, and you want an ICAP bid, I'll go get an ICAP bid.
Yeah, the long and short of it is, yes, we'd be interested in pursuing ICAP as long as there's not if there's a thought process of, hey, I'm familiar with ICAP and that arrangement, and there's no way that we would consider moving to it regardless of the dollar amount, then obviously we would prefer to not pursue that, because it's, you know, if that's the case, it's not just a waste of our time, it's a waste of Morgan's time and all the department heads that would have to send in information. So if the answer right up front is, hey, we're familiar with that setup and we're not going to move to it, then I would say we respectfully decline. But it sounds like the county is potentially open to it as long as they understood and the numbers made sense. So given that, we'd be very interested in pursuing that as an option if that's what we have access to, essentially.
And you wouldn't require the agent of record letter?
No, we don't need it on ICAP because I don't know if I can ask Mark, did you reach out to ICAP at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay. We sent out those initial emails on March 3rd, just saying to all the markets. So to Travelers, to ICAP, to IMWCA, and said, hey, we had this meeting today. Wanted to let you know that there's an opportunity that will be coming through. Each company, again, has different rules. So Travelers rule is first in qualified submission, meaning you have to have the information like accord applications, buildings, vehicles, kind of the asset list. With ICAP, it's a simple notification. So, hey, we've had conversations with the county. We're going to be sending in an application on this. So we have a response from ICAP as of March 3rd that that we have a what they call reservation with them. So we're in there. The reason that I like to get the letter signed and why I've requested them is then it's completely clear and transparent to everybody on the front end. That's why I requested them on March 3rd to avoid any contentious back and forth. So the long and short of it is we have a reservation with them. We're happy to pursue that option in IMWC on behalf of the county if you would like us to.
And the thing with travelers, there's no assurances that they're gonna be a better deal or,
No,
I mean, we don't know that until we get the quote, obviously. They could be the same, they could be higher, they could be lower, but
I mean, one thing Travelers doesn't do, there's no dividend on their work comp, which is a kind of a big one. You know, the dividends that you get from EMC, so I have no idea what that's gonna look like, but we'll find out, so.
They do no dividend reimbursement,
Pardon?
but they do no dividend check back for work comp. If you've improved your work comp, you're saying.
with travelers, there's no.
With travelers, they do no dividend check like EMC does if you've improved your work comp over that time period.
Right, but they don't provide a dividend, right? Travelers doesn't, but EMC does, so.
Just a quick note, I don't want to, not to be contentious, but that can be negotiated on there. We've had an offer from Travelers to negotiate, to add a dividend onto their package and work comp policies with the county in the past. So I only state that just it sounds like we're not going to have access, and I'm okay with that, but I would request that because it can be added.
That's true, but up front, they will tell you, we do not provide work comp dividends. That's their in writing up front, so.
So what's the resolution? John and Joe gonna work with ICAP and Iowa Municipality Workers Compensation Association? Is that where we're at right now? And Mark, you've got something in Travelers or
Correct.
working on it, right?
That works for us. Should we then request directly from Mark's office the information we've requested to the county? Is that how you want us to proceed with gathering that?
However you guys want to do it, you can email me and I'll send it straight over, so.
If you can send it to them, and if you could also just send it to
Copy you
Morgan,
guys
so
do,
that it's.
okay, sure.
Yep. Just if I can, one quick final comment. These situations are never easy, especially with public entities and public meetings. So I know it doesn't need to be said, but one, I appreciate the county being open to this, and two, I respect Mark and his positions and showing up to these meetings and defending his business. These are not easy when there's multiple agents and open meetings involved. So just for the sake of stating that, respect the work that he's doing and continuing to do on behalf of the county. These I don't like to make these contentious. We're simply trying to do our job and serve the county, and I know Mark's trying to do the same. So appreciate kind of the respectful nature of how this has all gone to date.
Mr. Davis, comment?
The three of you make the final decision. On my behalf as a taxpayer, I want you to spend every dollar of my money wisely.
That's what we're trying to do.
I've watched this discussion for the last 2 minutes. I get that.
All right, well,
It's when you're a small, we're a small county, and, we go to the same church as Mark, have had insurance with Systems for years, and it's not a personal thing. It's trying to do the best. Yeah.
we're spending taxpayer money. That's what we have to remember. Taxpayer money. So, all right, thank you, guys.
Brittany's been really patient. Number 6 and 7.
Yeah, we'll move on to, she's been waiting patiently back there. Please introduce yourself and come on up here if you like.
Well, like is a strong word.
My name is Amber Hicks. I'm a sexual assault advocate with Crisis Intervention Service. I serve Floyd, Mitchell, and Worth counties. And Renee Harris is supposed to be here too, but she's ill today. I brought a proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Do you guys have a copy of that already?
We do.
You do?
Downloaded our packet.
Okay, do you, so I brought that, I'd also like to talk about a few things we're doing for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. The end of April, we're lighting up the water tower. Teal, we're partnering with, JC Peichel, the, Sensi consultant, to do a drive for the little buddies and buddy clips to hand to, I have both of them.
So you mentioned the water tower?
Yeah.
The one that they light up south of town?
Yeah. They're lighting that up for Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Child Abuse Prevention Month.
What color?
Blue for Child Abuse Prevention Month and teal for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Is that what you need?
Is it, so there's not signature line?
All I did was kind of make it fit on a single page. There was never signature lines.
Well, I think
There for that one.
so. That's why I was late because Renee was sick and I had to try to find those. So yeah, we're doing the Sensi Drive that runs April 1st through the 30th. And we're doing a cell phones for survivors drives where folks can drop off used unlocked cell phones and hopefully chargers, and we give those out to survivors that are needing cell phones to apply for jobs, seek safety, you know, anything like that. So that's kind of what we have going on. I don't know a lot about the child abuse prevention ones. Renee usually talks about those, but I brought that with me because she is.
I'm on Child Abuse Prevention Council, so
Oh,
I
okay,
can talk about
perfect.
some of that.
Okay.
I'm wearing my Kids Matter today. Protecting kids is everyone's job today, just because of this proclamation. They also are doing different activities for awareness of child abuse prevention. We have a coloring contest. I'm part of the Floyd Mitchell, the Child Abuse Prevention Council. We are not able to do the lights in the courthouse because we have new Christmas lights and they don't have an interchangeable, you can't just unscrew the light bulb and put a blue one in it or a purple or a teal one in it. So unfortunately we aren't able to do the lights for the courthouse windows, which is really nice when you can do that. But we have a kids movie on April 19th. We're doing a coloring contest. We have Renee has done a proclamation with the city of Charles City for awareness of this month of April. And there's lots of activities across the nation with child abuse prevention.
Is there something for us to sign?
Yeah, those are the proclamations to make April Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Child Abuse Prevention Month.
And number 7 is your child abuse prevention.
So I don't know if you want me to read the Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation or if you would rather do it or how that works.
What child abuse is the first one on our agenda.
Oh,
We'll do
okay.
that one first.
Okay.
I can read it. It might take a minute or so.
Yeah, it will.
This is Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 1st, 2025. Whereas prevention is possible with the right policies and investments, families and children can thrive and avoid contact with child welfare and other costly systems. And whereas the early experiences of a child impact them throughout life, both positively and negatively. And whereas every family and child is filled with tremendous promise, and we all have collective responsibility to prevent adverse childhood experiences, foster the potential of every child, and promote positive childhood experiences. And whereas positive childhood experiences, PCEs such as loving caregivers and safe, stable, and nurturing relationships play a vital role in helping the children thrive by mitigating trauma and the negative impact of adverse childhood experiences. And whereas families who receive the support they need before a crisis occurs are better equipped to provide safe, healthy, and nurturing environments, leading the children who are safer, healthier, and more hopeful about their futures. And whereas childhood trauma, including abuse and neglect, can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects throughout an individual's lifetime and impact future generations. And whereas primary prevention of child abuse and neglect can reduce the lifetime economic burden associated with child maltreatment. And whereas strengthening families through access to concrete economic, social, and community-based supports reduces the likelihood of abuse and neglect and ensures children have the foundation for lifelong well-being. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the partnerships created between child welfare professionals, education, health, community, and faith-based organization, businesses, law enforcement agencies, and families. And whereas communities must make every effort to promote programs and activities that create strong and thriving children and families. And whereas we acknowledge that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promoting the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. And whereas investments in prevention initiatives such as home visiting programs, family strengthening policies, economic supports, community-based child abuse prevention efforts are essential to building safer, healthier communities for children and families. And whereas the prevention remains the best defense for our children and families. Now, therefore, we, the Floyd County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Floyd County and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Together, we create a state where every child can grow happy, healthy, and safe with hope for their future. All right.
We also have public service announcements that are going to be broadcast on KCHA. Lori Christensen has recorded some, and maybe some others have as well. And KCHA is also going to do their an interview with a representative of the council on their Monday morning to help the public become aware of. I would make a motion. Are you ready for a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
I would make a motion that we approve the proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve the April is National Child Abuse Preservation Month. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. So do we just give this back to you or do we
We have
keep
to
it?
sign it. We have to sign it, but we could, I'd like to do a photo opportunity also, and then maybe
Okay.
Mark can put it on the
We just signed
Facebook
it
page.
randomly?
I think it's right after that now,
Oh,
therefore, each
there
of
we
us
go.
sign there,
Okay.
yeah.
I got you.
Then we get a copy from Morgan. Or do you need a copy back or,
We would like one, yeah.
okay. We can run in the other room and get one.
Okay.
Want to do the sexual assault one then?
So next one is,
Sexual assault awareness month.
yeah, the review action regarding sexual assault awareness month proclamation, item 8 on the agenda.
Yeah, I kind of covered both on the last one.
Yeah.
Should I read this one as well?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Unless
Or do you want to give an
remember?
explanation or make any comments about it?
No, I think I already made all the comments but, yeah, you can read it or I can read it either way, doesn't matter.
As long as I've got it here. I'll
Okay.
read it. So unless Boyd wants to.
That's you. You're doing a good job.
Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation, whereas home should be a place of warmth, unconditional love, tranquility, and security for most of us. Home and family can indeed be counted among our greatest blessings. Tragically, for many community members, these blessings are tarnished by violence and fear. And whereas Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and 63 survivors sought victim services that were residents of Floyd County who experienced sexual violence last year. And whereas rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment affect our community, and statistics show 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men will be raped at some point in their lives. And whereas child sexual abuse prevention must be a priority to confront the reality that 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience a sexual assault before the age 18. And whereas we must work together to educate our community about sexual violence prevention, supporting survivors and speaking out against harmful attitudes and actions. And whereas the crime of sexual abuse violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control or abuse. And whereas sexually violent acts against children aged 0 to 14 cost the nation over $71 billion annually, and in adolescents ages 12 to 24, $45 billion annually in medical expenses, law enforcement and court costs, shelters, foster care, sick leave, absenteeism, and reduced worker productivity. And whereas only a coordinated community effort will bring an end to this epidemic of crime and violence, and we as a community must address the problem of sexual violence in our homes and neighborhoods every day of the year. And whereas a coalition of organizations has emerged to directly confront this crisis, law enforcement officials, victim service programs, healthcare providers, the faith community, and other concerned citizens are helping in the effort to end sexual violence. We must recognize the compassion and dedication of these volunteers and professionals, applaud their efforts, and increase public understanding and the importance of the social problem. Now, therefore, we, the Floyd County Board of Supervisors, should we make a motion for that?
You can finish reading it then.
Okay.
Make it official.
The Floyd County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and urge all citizens of Floyd County to observe this month by becoming aware of the tragedy of sexual assault, supporting those who are working toward its end, and participating in community efforts. I do hereby proclaim April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, this first day of April 2025.
Do that one?
I mean, through that proclamation of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April.
Seconded.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr to recognize Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Sign this one for you too.
Can we get a photo shot with your
Sure,
number? With you.
Yes. How would you change the one? You're the expert.
Now do one picture together or?
Yeah, that'll work.
Go back here.
Yeah. You may come next to Dennis. Wade and I can be on the other side.
Can we maybe do it to one side so we don't have to glare the screen in the windows in the
Yes.
background?
Oh, you are.
How about if you stood back? Good,
How about
yeah.
back there?
Yeah.
That'd be fine.
They can do it right there. Where they
Yeah,
go.
you could do it there.
Okay.
You want to be in a picture too?
Did you get a new computer? Bill?
That work? Get it?
Take like half a step, everybody that way. Meow, meow, meow. There you go.
Okay, everyone look here at this camera, ready? And let me get my own. All right, right here, got the phone ready. Oh, come on, boy, you can smile. All right, you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Cancellation. There's not work for the new community.
We'll get to that one. That one has to be notarized. So
Okay.
you'll have to come upstairs. Make sure you still go in.
Okay, and we're gonna, who wants to go home, who wants to copy?
It doesn't matter.
Maybe you can copy.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber. Thanks for all your work on that.
Oh, yeah.
Hope Renee gets feeling better.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Thank you for coming.
We need a brief break. He'll be right back. All right. Move on to item 11. And that is review action regarding a resolution number 1425 for road vacation. Public hearing for the vacation of Apple Lane north of 190th Street in section 31, township 96, range 18. Good morning, Adam.
Morning, everyone. How are you guys? Wonderful. Excellent.
How are you?
I'm doing well. No, all right. We received a request from the engineer's office to vacate the last portion of Apple Lane. I believe it's north of 90th, I think.
190th.
Yes, north of 190th. So we need, in order to do that, we need to set a date for a public hearing. You have to have a public hearing in order to vacate that road. So this resolution sets that public hearing to whatever date you guys would like.
So that, can you just point that out on the map over there for us, Adam?
Absolutely.
I think Boyd and I found it earlier.
I went out to see it a couple weeks ago, because I thought, where is this thing? And it definitely is It has no rock on it or no rock
Writing
on it.
section 31 here, 9618. There's a short stub. This was a road long ago. They vacated the north portion of that road. How many years ago? I don't know the exact date. But this bottom portion, talked with both landowners, they're both in agreement to it.
Are there any residents on that road?
There's no residents on that road. It's just fine.
Okay, save the county a little money, maybe.
We wouldn't,
Have to
we
maintain.
don't really maintain it now, but there's a culvert on there that we would have to replace.
So by vacating it, does any of that property go to the landowners then?
Yes,
Half of it? or
half goes each way. Yep.
Half goes each way, okay.
Yep. So get it back on the tax rolls.
And I think most of it's one landowner.
There's two landowners right there. One owns a little more than the other.
And, the one landowner owns all of that north part.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
We have to, once we set the public hearing, then we have to send out certified notices to landowners and all other affected entities. And we also have to publish it in the paper. We've got to be not less than 4 days or more than 20 days prior to the public hearing. So I
We
would
could have the
recommend-
public hearing here, probably, couldn't
Yes,
we?
absolutely. Just during a regular board meeting would be fine.
So there isn't any more discussion. I entertain a motion to,
So do you have a date in mind?
I do not. I mean, what,
You might wanna talk
I'm
about
bringing
that
up to you what date works best for you guys. I would recommend at least a month out to give us time to get
maybe May sometime?
May sometime would be fine. It'll give us time to get our notices out.
Is it Tuesday?
When did we agree to move them? On Tuesday, the 22nd.
22nd, so.
That'd be April, so we want to go to May.
We have to change the department head meetings to do that as well.
May 6th, would that be too soon?
That's work.
Okay, should we do it for May 6th?
And then a time.
Do like 9:15.
Pardon me.
You want it during the meeting?
Be an agenda item within the meeting.
So it's not its own public hearing.
What's that?
It's not its own public hearing.
No, just during a board meeting. I mean, it is, it's not a public hearing, but it's during a meeting, during a public meeting. It's a hearing during a meeting. Should I make a motion?
Motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve resolution 14-25 for road vacation, public hearing for the vacation of Apple Lane north of 190th Street in section 31, township 96, range 18, with a hearing date for May 6th at 9:15 in the boardroom.
I will second that. 9:15,
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve resolution 14-25 for road vacation public hearing for the vacation of Apple Lane north of 190th Street in section 31, township 96, range 18, on May 6, 2025 at 9:15 in the morning. Would you call the roll, Morgan?
Yes. Carr,
Yes.
Campbell. Kiefer.
All right. Motion passed unanimous. All right, Adam, we got that done.
Have that resolution marked in there.
All right, ready for the updates?
Ready for item 12 on the agenda.
Okay. All right, so secondary road activities, we've been blading roads. Sounds like the frost is mostly out. there might be a little bit left in the roads, but we're trying to start some dirt work up. We've got some culvert sections. I think they still enforce some culvert sections. The mechanic shop's uniform, that is in progress. We're working on getting that all set up. We're starting some bridge work. We've got a couple of bridges where we had some logs and branches catching some piers. Working on getting some of that removed. And then the last thing for secondary road activity, we've got 2 sign trailers. They're just single axle trailers. We have our barricades on for road closures. We've got 2 of them. I have come to learn that they have been overloaded quite a bit here with all the sign stuff that we put on them. So it's been requested to me to replace those. So we're working on getting quotes from a couple different companies to get 2 new trailers, just single axle. The total for that goes less than $15,000. I'm asking you guys if it's something you're just gonna allow me to just go ahead and take care of it. You guys even want to know about it? How would you like me to convey that? Do you want me to convey it to you?
How many trailers are there? 2?
2, yeah.
And they're just a flatbed trailer?
Just a single axle flatbed trailer. I think we're going with heavier axles to make sure that we're not overloading our trailers.
Are they tandem axle trailers?
Just singles.
What's the disposition of the old trailers?
The old trailers are still in use. They are well used. But every time we use them, the insides of the tires are wearing out. So we know, and my understanding is when you load them, they look like the axles are bent a little bit. So the last thing we need is during a emergency event, one of those trailers bust an axle or pop tire. So it's just been brought to my attention. We've got a little money. We're looking at being probably $600,000 of money not spent in the budget this year. So we've got a little bit extra, and we're talking less than $15,000 for both of them.
How much for both? 15 or
Less
50?
than 15
For both.
15
for both, yeah. We should be well under 15 for both.
So I appreciate you coming to the Board of Supervisors. Last week we had someone come because they were spending over $500 on some equipment, and they came to the board, and that was a really old policy that anybody that was spending more than $500, we want them to come to the board, just as an FYI type thing. And so 500 is probably a low number these days compared to when that was put in place, but I do appreciate when you bring those things to the board.
And yes, I can just bring like those medium type items to the board just to let you know that we're going to be doing that. That's perfectly fine with
Yep,
me.
I appreciate that too, Adam.
Absolutely. So we will get those coming, get those ordered, get those
Are
paid
those
for.
competitive bids that you? Somebody?
There are, sign foreman Nate is getting bids from a couple different local companies that provide trailers. We are looking at them to make sure that the trailers that they can provide will fit our needs. I'm not necessarily going with the lowest, but the lowest that will work for us. Because there's a couple little nuances. For example, the couple trailers that I've seen so far, there's one that has a rail on kind of on the top that's more structural. Well, we might have to remove that rail, so that probably wouldn't work for us because we'd be affecting the structure of the trailer. So we're looking to make sure that what we get is actually going to physically work for us.
These signs are like roll close signs.
Yep, barricades. We have enough barricades on one of our trailers for about 2 closures. So about 12 signs on a trailer. And right now, the trailers we have like 3,000-pound axles. And the sandbags alone could get up to 2,000 pounds. And the trailer itself is 1,000. So right there, we're maxed out. That's how you put the signs on it. We're looking at getting 5,000.
So you're gonna keep the old trailers?
We're gonna
or
trade the old
you're gonna
trailers.
trade? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but we don't need to keep the old trailers. Any other questions on that? Moving on to office activities, we're still working on the right of way for the 170th Street Bridge. I believe that bridge is supposed to be let in August as of right now. Contract rock, we're having that letting next Tuesday on the 8th in our office. Road vacation Apple Avenue, that was just passed. We'll work on getting notices out for that. Marble Rock, the bridge in Marble Rock, the approaches on that have been, and a call Friday that those approaches are not very good. So we're looking in our office, possibly having our guys remove the existing approaches on that, backfill underneath the approaches, because I think things are settling. So we get good sub-base underneath those approaches, and then hopefully repaving those yet this year. So that's a kind of a maintenance project we're looking at doing.
That's that right in town.
Right in town, yes.
Going across to
Yep.
Shell Rock there.
Yep. The east side for sure is settling, and both sides are rough. So we're gonna try to take things out, get it done right or as good as we can, and then repave it here later this year. 130th Street, we have two closed bridges northeast of town, just a mile west of Underwood on 130th Street. We've got a timber structure and a truss bridge, an old truss bridge going over the Little Cedar. Our foremen have requested that we look into removing those structures. I've looked at things, those structures that look like they were closed back in 2015.
Flood and high water deal, right?
What's that?
Because of high water, there was a flood in 16.
No, I think probably in 2015 is when our consultant firm suggested that we close those two bridges. So they've been closed for almost 10 years. Once they're closed for 10 years, they come off of what's called our qualified bridge list, which is bridges on that list determine our bridge funding. My recommendation to the board is for us to remove those bridges once they come off of that qualified bridge list. The timber structure, the substructure on it, piling are definitely showing their age. There's a couple that are hollow. There's one for sure, it looks like it's failed. The truss structure, it's called a fracture critical bridge or non-redundant steel tension member bridge. I don't know if I got that acronym right or not, but basically what happens is on that, if one particular member fails, the entire bridge falls in the river. Those type of bridges. So there is some pack rust on one of the pins or many pins on the bottom cord of the bridge. If that continues to deteriorate and pops one of those bars off, it could cause the entire bridge to collapse. I don't think it's going to happen next year or two, but the next 5 or 10, it's definitely a possibility. And we want to get that out before that happens.
And this is the same bridge you and I talked about.
Yes.
That the Mennonite like to use.
Yes.
They ride their bikes across
Yes.
them up there.
I have heard that the Mennonites are interested in keeping that structure. It would be up to the board whether or not they would want to try to sell it to them. My personal opinion, I would advise against it.
You would advise which?
I would advise against it.
Against that?
I would just prefer those bridges just be done. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna fall down tomorrow. They might be still there in 10, 20 years, but when it fails, it's gonna fail probably during a flood. That's gonna make a mess.
There's no traffic,
The bridges are closed currently.
it's closed currently.
Yes.
So is there a spot where south of there where a bridge came out and the Mennonites did a
They drive across.
paved,
Yes.
well, they did
The
the
Mennonites
bridge is
have
gone, but they
a
did
low
a
water
paved.
crossing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they drove.
I don't know if there was
They drive
ever a bridge there.
across.
They created a low water crossing.
There's two different deals though, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also with these.
How far
two-
is that? Is it, are we
Oh,
not the same?
couple hundred feet.
Couple hundred feet.
Yeah, it's right close. Yeah. So also with these two bridges, the road between them is held up by two retaining walls. Those retaining walls are in very poor condition as well. So I'm afraid next couple flood, that section of road between those two bridges might disappear potentially.
So,
So right now I'm just kind of giving the board information. But once those bridges come off that qualified bridge list and they're no longer adding to our funding, I would recommend to the board to remove those structures.
You say that is every 10 years, so how long would we have to go before that's
I
qualified bridge?
I have to verify, but I think those bridges might come off this year.
Oh, good. Okay. Sooner the better.
Yes, I mean, if we were to open that up to any sort of even pedestrian traffic, that timber structure would need railing on it for sure. Most of the railing on it is either not there or very poor shape.
Okay.
So I would not recommend opening that bridge to even pedestrian or bike traffic.
Barricades are up and all.
Barricades are up, yes.
Liability is.
People walk around the barricades. Nothing we can really do about it. But at that point in time, they're doing it at their own risk.
Okay.
They must be able to get by the barricades right now,
They
right?
can walk by them.
Walk by or with bicycles or whatever.
It'd be tight with a bicycle.
Okay.
They've done that already.
So
So then you would recommend that that bridge ends up getting removed?
yes.
And there's no funding today that covers that type of thing?
No, and my understanding is our bridge crew would be able to remove those. So it would just be local. Probably even a maintenance job, just removing the timber structure isn't take much to remove that.
Sure.
The truss will take a little bit more effort, but according to my bridge foreman, he can take it out.
So if the Mennonites said, we want to put a bridge there, their own bridge there, is there an option to do anything like that?
Once the bridges are gone, we'd have to vacate the road for them to be able to do anything on that. It's still public right away. So
There be any reason to not vacate the road?
we could potentially, I have to think about that a little bit, because I do know that the road goes down on the east side, down to, looks like some sort of property there or something. It's got a couple accesses, so vacating the road right at the bridge could get a little tricky.
That way for a long time. Been a long time.
And if they were to build a bridge there, it would be tough to control access to that. Definitely, I would not let them build a bridge on public right of way.
Right. Yeah. I just wondered if it was gone, if they wanted it so they could do foot traffic, bike traffic, if they wanted to build their own, do their own.
I would recommend to them if they want to do some sort of bridge, do it on their private property. Right now.
If we vacate it, though, it would no longer be public property, right?
Correct. I'd have to look at how the land is divided there, who the property would go to. But yeah, it would be possible for them to put it, it then becomes private property and then the county has no say in it.
Just wondered, I wouldn't be surprised if they might ask.
Okay, moving on, my budget and program. I have that basically prepared. This year is a little different. I have to submit it to the DOT first, which I have done. So my initial thought was to present it to the board next Tuesday at your board meeting. I'm not sure if I'll get information back from the DOT or not. I could just present it and then you guys just know what's going on and prove it. You guys can prove it later. How would you like to proceed with that?
Our meeting would be Monday, not
Would be Monday.
Tuesday.
We haven't changed the Tuesdays yet, Adam. It's in
April 7th, that's a Monday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe Dusty always had the board approve it. And he went through the details of it. And then the board took action to approve it. It is a budget, and I think it requires the board's signature.
It does require the board's signature, but I didn't know if you wanted me to present it, so you have time to make comments or any changes that you might want to make before you officially approve it. I have to get it back from the DOT before it can be officially approved by the board. My thought was I was going to give you guys a little PowerPoint presentation on everything, all the projects that we're planning in the next 5 years.
Maybe Dusty did all that and then brought it to the board, because it was usually like the last
Things have
day of
changed a little bit
Yeah.
in the process here the past couple of years, especially this year. So I mean, I can delay that till later, but I'm gonna need board's input as far as if they need to change anything in my budget from what's been submitted or.
Heard.
I think we need to.
Yeah, so you say you send it to the DOT and then you bring it back to the board,
Yes,
and you don't know if you'll have it back by April 7th.
I don't know for sure, I don't know how long it's gonna
Do you
take.
then push it out to the 14th?
Do that,
Yeah, let's
Do you
get
think
the
you'd
shape.
have it by then?
I would hope so. I
Or
know
if you get
it's
it
gotta
by
be
then, you
approved by the 30th, is my understanding.
I thought that was like the 15th or
It
something.
used to be,
Did they jig that change?
yes.
Okay,
Now it's gotta be turned into to the DOT by the 15th and approved by the board by the 30th, is my understanding.
because of the change in
Yes,
the
yes.
county budgets.
But if you guys wanna make any changes, I gotta have time to do that as well.
Let's do it the 14th then.
14th, I can do that.
Well, and I'm saying the 14th because we originally were gonna change the meetings to Tuesday, the 15th. But we talked about,
We scratched
yeah, because of the deadline for Morgan to get the budget to the newspapers would be noon on the 14th to have our public hearing timely.
the 22nd is in my notes when we moved to Tuesday.
Yeah, I scratched.
But that was, I think, based on the conversation. It was the 15th, you
Yeah.
put the 15th, but I don't think we did any motion after doing the 15th motion, but we just get to the chair to.
I will plan on the 14th, and I've talked to Bernie, he suggested using the EOC for my presentation instead of the boardroom. Would that work, be okay for the board?
How come, Bernie?
And he's got the projector screens, you can put them up there and everybody can see them and we can.
Facing the same direction?
So it's not gonna be a share the screen on Zoom, so the Zoom people won't.
Correct, we'll
see it
just
very
set
well.
that back monitor up, and then those two to the side, but the camera will show it. The camera does 360 of the room, so they'll be able to see all of it.
It's fine.
Okay.
So the 22nd would be an EOC then,
14th?
14th.
14th. All right. Okay, and a couple more things. We did have our CBTC meeting here last week, and I have copies of those minutes if you guys would like them. CBTC, Cedar Valley Transportation Center.
What is it again?
Cedar Valley Transportation Center.
What's the document though?
The minutes for our meeting.
Oh,
I don't care to.
Give me one.
Okay.
I'm not enough to read.
Oh, it's a-
There's 3
you got
copies.
copies. but-
Yeah, I got copies, so I wasn't sure how much you guys wanted to know about that or not, but you guys can read the minutes if you have any questions, just get a hold of me and I can attempt to answer them. Next item is,
Was Dusty or Jacob the note taker for that in the past? Was
yes,
he
the
inherited?
county has been the secretary for that for a while, was my understanding, so. Dwayne came with me, and took notes the first time, so I could kind of absorb things a little bit easier, but.
Is there anything in here that we might want to know that stands out that you think we should know about?
No, they had talked about doing some key fobs for security, but that sticker price kind of shocked them a little bit. We did not do that.
Sure. Have there been any issues out there with security?
Not that I am aware of, but. Nothing that serious to warrant a $22,000 bill. Let's see, one of the last things I want to discuss is shop plans. I've had Jake working a little bit on getting some preliminary shop plans worked up for the shop I discussed at Rockford, for replacing that. Hoping to send that out here shortly to kind of get an idea on how much it would cost us to build a new shop at Rockford. So I'd mention that to the board, if you guys have any comments or questions on that.
You have a new plan here to expand it, make it larger, obviously what you want to do, right?
Yes, we have the lands. Tim has looked at the land and kind of laid out the footprint of the building in the property, made sure we've met city codes for setbacks and stuff. And he's got, I think it's a 4 or 5 stall building. drawn out.
We talked about going and looking at the current building. I've been by there. I see there was, I think 2 graders outside. Is the intent that you'd have a building that would fit all of that, or?
The intent is to have a building that would be big enough to fit, easily house our equipment. That basically we need to store there for, I think he said 4 stalls facing to the east and then 1 stall kind of in the back for like a pickup or a trailer or something of that nature. So our hope is to eventually get Rockford, North Springs, and Marble Rock, and then sell the property at Rudd. Would be our plan at the moment. Rockford would probably be the biggest shop that we would build. The other 2 would probably be about a stall smaller, just a stall or 2 smaller. And this would take care of, according to my foreman, should take care of our storage needs for quite a while. So the problem we got with our current shops, the main problem is we just outgrown them. Equipment's gotten too big. The one shop I went in, you could barely open the door. The front plow blade is against the front wall. There's barely enough room to walk around the back side of the plow, and there's beams sitting right in front of the windshield.
They work on that equipment in there, man, right?
I don't know how they can. There's just hardly any room in there. So about anything they work on, I have to come here to Charles City in those shops.
Perhaps that we should do like a traveling meeting sometime and go to the county properties and.
We discussed getting together.
Let me know when. Let me know when. I can get a pickup or 2 lined up, and we can go do that. Absolutely.
I think that'd be good.
So just let me know when.
Are you gonna let internet no shops too, for like your?
There's not internet that I know currently. That's not in the initial plans. I mean, eventually maybe. We'll just kind of see. We're kind of looking. We've got our 2-way system that's antiquated. We're starting to get an idea, or starting to get ideas on how to replace it. So
I'm curious on, does the state have multiple places that they store things in the county?
I don't know where the state shops are.
Besides CBTC?
Yes, I don't know where the state shops are for sure. Usually they have multiple locations, not quite as many as county because they don't have quite as long of roads. But I know in Cassuth they had one in Algona and one up in Sway City. So I don't know where the shops are around here, but I'm sure there's probably one, if not one more in the county. It's probably not too far outside the county.
I was just curious because it was, I mean, the supervisors were so close at one time to Dusty's plan of putting up a shop that would house west side of the county equipment. And I know that then there's that travel time, but I wonder if there's any cost analysis that can be done on doing that versus, and then selling those properties, just having that cost analysis on.
Well, typically when you look at a building, you look at cost per square foot. To store what we need to store, we need a certain amount of square foot.
Yeah.
It's either we do it in 1 building or we do it in 3. I mean, if we were doing 1, we don't have the property to do that property. We don't have the room.
Oh, I know, not on that property.
Yep.
He had a couple spots he was looking at.
And we'd have to buy property then. And at that point in time, the amount of money that we would save by selling off a couple properties would probably be offset with buying the new property. And then on top of that, you're gonna have additional expenses every day because of all of our motor grader operators running to their territories, which I believe you guys asked at one point in time for territory maps, which I have for you. Motor graders, typically you're only traveling 25 mile an hour, maybe 30 at road speed. So in order to get up to the north part of the county from Rockford, oh, you're probably talking 5 minutes to an hour to get that north corner from Rockford.
But they have roads that start right next to Rockford.
Correct, but you're not always starting there. Maybe the roads they gotta do that day are clear on the north end.
It
Same-
sounds
sounds
good, but having farmed from one side of the county to the other, you know, travel time is huge. And traffic and
I mean, there's not only that, but there's snow removal.
Yeah.
You get people down, everybody stationed in Rockford, they gotta go all the way to the north side of the county, all the way to the south. It takes time. Snow plows move a little bit quicker than, the trucks move a little bit quicker than graders, but the best way to do it is try to keep the shops as centralized.
So does it, when you say you would close the one in Rudd, would it make more sense to close one in Norris Springs rather than Rudd? Because Rudd goes clear over to Floyd.
I don't know that we have the property in Rudd to support a bigger shop.
shop's very small.
It's a one stall
One
shop in
stall
Rudd.
shop and it's dilapidated.
Is that on Main Street in Red? Where's
Yeah,
that?
it's kind of back, kind of off the beaten path, back in the,
Towards the dump back.
yeah, it's west of the north-south blacktop, quite
Yeah.
back quite a ways.
Oh, woods back in.
Yeah, the location's not very good there. I think Norris Springs would be the better, I mean, you'd be able to draw more labor force from Norris Springs. That's another thing, getting people to the shops when it's blizzard out. You want them to live as close to the shops as possible.
Why does 86 travel on the south side of the avenue at Floyd? Seems like 80
That
or
map's there to talk about.
this chunk right here. It's on the southeast side of Floyd.
Okay,
Why does 86 do that? It seems like 81 or 80 would be a better. See, I'm talking right
I
here.
see what you're saying, yeah.
This right here, why does this go over here?
Probably because it's a dead end road.
Oh, that's
Oh,
that
we get
road that goes straight west, straight east out of
I'm
Floyd,
assuming 86 is stationed out of
north of the
Floyd.
river.
So I think there's 85 and 86 are stationed out of Floyd. I think. Might double check on that.
There's a
Like when they built that new shed in Floyd.
Yep.
They did.
Because there's two routes that are stationed out of Floyd. So it would just probably be easiest for him to leave Floyd, do that route, and then go do the rest of his routes. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm not familiar enough with what my foreman were thinking when they drew these maps up, but I'm sure it makes sense to them.
That's a dead end road that goes to the.
Yeah, it looks like-
Right by the cemetery.
Huh?
It goes right by the cemetery there. It connects, it butts up to the avenue, saying it's.
No, I'm
Sure.
okay. I was thinking of the gravel road that goes east out of Floyd and dead ends. It's north of the Cedar River,
Both,
Salisbury.
Yeah,
both that one and that one
Yeah.
are dead ends now.
Okay.
Yeah. I see.
all right. So yeah, we'll start getting some quotes on building a new shop in Rockford then. We'll start getting that
Yeah.
process started.
You're gonna,
Are
you're
we,
gonna pay for that by not buying as much rock, right?
That part of it,
Part
yes,
of it.
there's budgeted for 200,000 for, in the construction, new shops, construction bid item that Jacob put in there. I was gonna add another 260 from rocks, from doing less rock onto that, so it'll be 460 for the next fiscal year. So I don't,
is that, did you change it in your DOT budget that way?
yes,
And so, but is it changed in the county's budget that way?
yes, I revised it and gave a
The
copy to
road
him.
rock was reduced?
Yes. think I mentioned that to the board here.
Why don't we talk about it? I didn't know that. We said, I thought it was get some quotes first and see what.
Well, we're working on getting some quotes, but the budget's gotta be done. I mean, the rock is being let at the lower 75,000 ton instead of 90,000 ton. The rock is being let at a lesser amount for this.
For the tonnage reach, you mean,
Yes.
less than a year ago? No.
Is that? No, right, next week when we do our rock letting.
Yep.
What we asked the contractors to quote is 75,000 ton
Yeah, okay,
instead of the 90s that was originally.
yeah, okay. There's been some years when it's been 100,000.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna take that year by year. This winter was a relatively nice winter for us.
So you don't have quotes for the cost of the rock yet, have
Not
we?
yet, no, that's next, we'll get those information next week.
So because of the cost of this building, what's your estimate cost of this building is? And do we need to go out for, is it over that threshold? Do we need to go out for formal bids? It's a capital project, but I would assume maybe we need to.
It's a capital project. I gotta look into it just a little bit. I know Jake's kind of trying to do the same thing they did for Floyd, same type of thing. We're going different companies getting some different quotes. I don't know if we need a formal bid or not. But
Check that threshold for that new construction.
we'll look at that because it's different for buildings than it is for roads.
Yep.
So we actually get down to the point where we're actually gonna let the project, we'll make sure everything is
Yeah, just check. Could you report back to us on that threshold amount for that?
I'll look at that a little bit, yes. Cause I'm not 100% sure. There might not be a threshold amount for vertical, for buildings. I'll have to look. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Something that Adam and I, and maybe these boys, know, but Adam and I have talked, he'd like to find new office space. Vacate where he's at and find something that's more accommodating. Doesn't have any privacy where you're at now.
There's no privacy in the office, no.
And, so there are many options, I guess. Sometimes I think you gotta move out to that building south of town, but there's no room out there.
I would love to find
Not
office
enough
space out
room
there, but
anyway.
without building something, there's no room for us.
So, anyway, Adam and I have been talking about this and looking around and see if we can come up with something for him, so.
So there was that, and we talked about it the other day, but there was, that back, the filing cabinet room was one of the spots Jacob had considered turning that into. And then there is the door that if you needed a more private meeting, you could just go into that conference room right adjacent to that. What's the status of that? That would be a little larger room than what you're currently in. And
It's under consideration. I mean, there's a couple things with our office that are less than ideal. Where Tracy's at, she has to get up off her desk every time the door opens to see who's there.
well, that counter used to be right in the front there. They removed that.
So I mean, that's one thing. I mean, the office itself, when they did the remodel, they put that run of ductwork right in the ceiling and not very appealing. I know there are a couple things with the remodel is, yeah.
Auditors, treasurers, and.
Yeah.
Like,
So I mean, the office, in my opinion, the office is not very welcoming. So I mean, the privacy is my main concern. And if we need to do some reconfiguring of our office, try to get me some more private area, we can definitely try to do that. I'm just trying to explore all options at this time.
Could you just move your office to somewhere else in the courthouse and have?
I would advise against that. I don't want to be completely removed from my office staff. I'd be going back and forth all the time.
is it just getting doors for the two openings to your office? I think, is there that accordion?
There's that accordion door, which does very little. I said it might be an option. I don't know if that would suffice or not. It probably be better than nothing.
And what was the issue with with moving the file cabinets to one area and?
I don't know, my understanding was that we'd have to get all of our computer hookups to that file cabinet room.
I was told, John told me that there are no network jacks in that room.
So what would
Very
that
little
wouldn't take
power.
much, would it?
I don't think it would.
So it'd have to be some remodeling done in order to make that work, get some power and network connection to that room, if that's the way we chose to go. It would be an option.
I hate to interfere, but you know, in Tracy's office, there's that cabinet, but on the other side of that cabinet is a door. Jamie and Renee have their offices. It's just like, you know, that goes right into that other side of the hallway seamlessly. You know, the framework with the shelving is, there's a door on the other side of it that goes into an office.
I think there's things that we don't know yet what's going to happen if they, direct access, not DHS, but the direct access and disability access point people might use that area. We've had numerous conversations. Dennis and I from the past have tried to work with relocating DHS over to the courthouse. This now opens up, the disability access point doesn't happen, kind of opens up more room if that isn't off the table.
Yeah.
Because we just have too much empty spot, and I think having you in your area somewhere there makes sense.
It does to a point. Being another issue that's going to be coming down the road is our lab trailer. We have a lab trailer where my guys run gradations and test some rock for our projects. And that lab trailer's starting to show its age. I know we've got one door that leaks really badly. Trailer. So it's not the most ideal situation for a lab. So
It's outside the town.
that's out, the CBTC is just sitting outside. So that will have to be addressed at some point in the future.
But that goes to a site, doesn't it?
That does not.
That doesn't go to a site.
No, it's up on blocks, it's anchored down, trying to keep it from moving so they can actually run their tests without the trailer shaking all over the place. So finding somewhere we have a permanent lab, it would be ideal to have a permanent lab where our office is. So while the tests are running, our guys can be at their desk, actually doing some other paperwork stuff. Now when they're out there, there's downtime, there's just nothing to do.
But they have laptops, so they can pretty remote.
I don't know what's out there for internet connectivity or whatnot. But it's outside the building.
Outside, we can't get nothing. We'd just have to put an outside wireless AP. The trailers are gonna be permanent in a spot.
It's permanent in the spot right now.
We could do a wireless link.
But what he's talking is if it could be moved to first floor,
Oh, gotcha.
right?
I mean, we don't want the lab at the courthouse. It's gonna be too loud, too noisy, too dusty. We don't want
We
the
don't
lab.
want the lab at court.
We don't want the lab at the courthouse.
Oh, I thought that's
Unless-
what
Well, it'd be nice to have our office and the lab somewhere, CBTC or the DHS building, somewhere we could have some more space to put the lab, put our offices, maybe even have a garage for our vehicles to protect our vehicles a little bit. So I mean, just food for thought.
There's no office space available out there now, or not. I used to go out there and vote.
Sure.
It seemed like there was a whole lot of room.
That was in the break room.
Yeah,
But when we're looking at property tax reform and capped at 2%, I don't know that we want to
We don't wanna-
expand offices more than we want to.
Yes, we
How
don't
can
want
we do
to,
it
I don't think we want to build
with less?
something new right now.
Yeah,
I mean, if there's an office space that we can use that's existing, I don't know if DHS building, if the secondary road department could take that building over. Potentially, just food for
no, I
thought.
don't think that's even an option, because the intent is if we could move HHS over here, we would sell that building.
Get it back on the tax rolls.
Yep.
I understand. Food for thought if something comes up.
I just thought I'd mention, because Adam and I have talked about it a couple different times, and
Yeah.
haven't been able to find a real good solution yet, I guess, so.
That's probably why it hasn't been done yet. We haven't found a real good solution. We might just have to make a decision in our office and do some remodeling or something to get something done, but I don't want to do that, but if we need to, we need to.
Even in that back, that file room, there wouldn't be much for remodeling.
Getting an electric and
Yeah.
internet connection there and getting a door.
Where do the files go?
Where is
They'd
that?
have to go where my desk
Or
is.
just switch, I got you, okay.
We give you Morgan's office.
Okay,
Yeah.
where are you gonna put us?
We just switch.
You got that big back room there, that's empty, isn't it, Morgan?
Sort of, it's full of filing cabinets, so.
Well, we'll have to look at it.
Yeah.
So I think if we could, maybe we could just do a traveling tour of, including, I've never seen this trailer, never.
Absolutely. Yes, just tell me when.
Okay. We get through budget.
Yeah, please.
We're getting there, right?
So you were done, Adam, and then I interrupted you with this, so
That's what that's all I got, so.
probably move on to IT. Murray's been sitting there patiently waiting.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
The podium, or can I do it from here?
If you speak up, you could do it from there.
Okey-dokey. So on the IT updates, last few months been rolling out some new laptops and stuff like that. And camera system, finalizing our cameras that we didn't have out there before. When we did the renovation on the courthouse, got new security systems, some of the old cameras were non-compliant for the Fed and the state. They didn't want Chinese-made cameras and use anymore. So we had a few here, 3 at Public Health. They had to be replaced. We've replaced those, and they had kind of their own camera system at Conservation that we patched into our old software and our old video server. But the old video server is done now, and so we added cameras down there. Last week I was down there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and got one more to do, but we're kind of trying to decide on where we're gonna put that last one. I think just the entryway to the conservation. We got one out by the parking lot, one in the shop over on the other side, one on the basement floor. It covers all the entries to the basement. And so we just need one upstairs, cover the entries. And so the goal is to get them on our system. And then we've got 2 more to install at the radio tower. Whenever Travis gets a minute or some time, we can go down there.
Have you got those cameras for the tower?
Yep, I've got them all programmed, ready to go.
Okay.
We're just waiting to get in there. Motorola's been in there the last couple of weeks, and it's small building, didn't want to crowd them, so we're just waiting for a good.
So these cameras are, where will they be physically?
One will be on the tower. It's a quad camera. Points north, south, east, west. You get the driveway, and then if somebody comes in from a field or something like that, and then we're gonna have one inside. Just purely security, in case somebody is goofy enough to get in there and try to mess with stuff. And so one of the things we came up against last week is we had 165 camera licenses. Now I have 165 devices. And so I can't add the ones at the conservation or the radio tower yet to the system. So we need licenses. So I figured a couple for the radio tower could go on the radio tower project, a couple of those licenses. I don't know if there's like that or not.
What do they cost, license?
Right around $400 a license.
One time?
Yeah. Well, we have to renew those licenses after 3 years and stuff, but.
And when you say the project, are you talking our bond proceeds dollars?
Or
Yeah,
90?
whatever the
So
tower
that
project.
ends. So there won't, I mean,
So
our thoughts, we might be
These are
done with that by
federal
June,
licenses.
the bond
Well, these
proceeds.
are just licenses for our software system, for the camera system. So it's a license per device type thing, you know? So,
So unless it's something 911 pays versus general fund.
but, well, you know, I think Travis got cameras on that.
Did,
Purchased them on
with
that,
our
so
bond
I thought maybe
proceeds.
the license.
Yeah, but bond, they're, how often do you pay the licenses?
3 years.
Every 3 years.
Yeah, so the bond proceeds be gone, so there won't be a project. I mean, those money will be, that money will be gone.
I think 90 should check with them maybe and see.
But even 6, 7 years down the road, if the cameras die after warranty, you're gonna have to buy them again, so somebody's gonna have to buy them, so. Either way. the
And that's
licenses
where
I
I'm
need-
not real clear, if then is it communications dispatch, which is general fund, is it 911, if it is an allowable, state allowable expense on 911, or if it's just same as all these courthouse cameras come in general fund, your department 52.
And I'm looking for guidance as to where these licenses should go, because to get enough licenses for all the devices, it's $2,200, so. Good place, except the tower, and we'll get out there probably this week, that's what Travis and I were thinking, so.
Does there need to be signage out there that there are cameras or not?
I think Travis has that handled, I think he's got some signs or something.
With this,
I
did.
double check.
did approve a couple signs, but I don't know that they were camera signs.
Yeah, I
It was
was
private property or keep out or something. Do you remember?
I do have some stickers that just go on the window or on the door. I'm sure we could get more. I'm sure Genetec's probably got some more communication innovators that we could get some to plaster out there.
well, Jason or Travis should be able to help, so that I would think.
Yeah, you don't have to tell people that there's a camera, is there?
I think there's a lot of areas you're supposed to. Quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure that you gotta have it posted.
Where's our sign at the courthouse?
I think there's one on the door out here. And it was an old one from Central Lock.
Not a public entrance then.
No, but I think it was on this entrance. Which is
When this was the public entrance.
correct, yep, so, but that was the old camera system, so that's, so. We probably should have somebody. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I think you're supposed to have at least something posted.
Usually there's, if you go into some government buildings, I mean, I don't know if it's a post office or not, but they have some kind of a sign that with an image of a camera on it or something that says you are being watched, or I don't know what
This
the
building
verbiage
is under 24/7 surveillance.
Yeah,
has a
something
picture
like
of a
that,
camera.
is. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, but, I can look into it too, see what I can get stickers to for cheap. I'm sure Communication Innovators probably got something that they could probably just ship us a handful or something like that, if we need them.
It might be a resource to know if it's a law requirement or not.
I can check with the attorney's office if you'd like me to.
Go for it.
Okay. And then, so as I said, Travis and I will finish up the tower cameras this week. That project will be done, and that'll be all the cameras that we were going to add. Anymore. Got a couple that we got to reposition in some offices, but not gonna require a license, just move them where they are. Allow it to 1 year old was. Because it was the board, there was a camera in there, so I think we're. So. Pretty sure that's it for the camera system. We got all the other ones working, so.
If you relocate that camera, do you still have to buy cameras then, or are you good for?
No, that camera is still compliant. That old camera, that was not one of those non-compliant.
It used to be on the system.
No, that camera is on the system.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying it's not one that that can't be on the system.
Right.
It is compliant, that one. We had 2 different brands of cameras.
But you don't have a spot for it that it could go to.
We were thinking about putting it in the back room, like over the server area. You know, just something that kind of can see down in there, and anybody that walks in that back room, just for security reasons, you know. That's the only other place I think we need to have one. So.
The camera in here?
Yep.
Okay.
We added that one November, I think. So. I got one in the EOC. So yeah.
Are there cameras like a conference room next door? Or?
There is that one in there. But I mean, again, if we want to add more, we can add 2 licensing and stuff.
But you could take the one from the one back in the auditor's office to put.
The only problem down here is we have limited network connectivity in these rooms. To pull one out of the wall on one of the wall jacks and limit what you have in there. I mean, really in there, the wall jacks aren't used that much. They're only public, so I could reconfigure that. And the other stuff I'm doing right now currently, got me some trash cans for my office for all the old equipment. You know, one time we talked about having an auction, putting stuff on an auction. Still doing that.
There's John and Cody have all kinds of stuff saved up somewhere. Checked with Right Auction Company some time back, and if anything sells for less than $10, you don't get anything out of it. So it just seems like it's a lot of work. Because there's nothing worth much money with the stuff they have. I don't know about what you're talking about, but
I got the old laptops, the voter stuff. We replace the hard drives in and all that, but now everybody's kind of getting their own laptops and they don't use those anymore. So got quite a few of those. Got some cameras that still could work in somebody else's system if they wanted it. Wireless access points that are old are still functional, just non-compliant. When I was with state, I was additional grants. We would get equipment like that. We'd retire it off the system, document the serial number, all that stuff right off, and then we'd put it up for in-house sale is what they would do in District 3. That's how we would do it. So if employees wanted to buy something, you know, whatever, pay for them. State-wise, though, if they ever sold to the public, it was out of their outlet down in Des Moines. Is where they would do it there. So I don't know logistics of what we would have to do something like that. But I mean, these laptops are probably worth like $25-50 a piece, if that. Cameras maybe 10 or 15. Access points probably 50 or 60. But there are a lot of them. They're taking up a lot of space. So I was just gonna put them in those shelving in that closet, but it's just gonna sit there forever. I'd really love to get rid of them and get them out of here,
so how would you like to do disposition of all this stuff?
or we could scrap it. What's the other option?
Be cautious to take it to the landfill.
Yeah,
That's not the best answer, probably.
I know some scrappers that like stuff down for the gold and silver.
Did you say they do have, there's nothing wrong with them?
Yeah, they work. They're just non-compliant. Pose a security risk in our current setup, so.
So should we have the department give us an inventory of stuff and?
Yeah, I'd like to see an inventory of what we do have. Otherwise, I have no idea what we're talking about. But if there's security risk, do you want to sell that to the public, type thing, or?
Well, I mean, like with cameras, they were made
Yeah,
outside of our
cameras and stuff,
country.
but
They work, and I mean, somebody can put them up around building.
But they gotta work with the system, to be said.
They do, but I mean, that would be up to them. We cameras, power over Ethernet. Web cameras, so once they're hooked into the Ethernet, they can bring them up on a web page, buy their own software to have it record to, that type of stuff. But laptop wise, they're sunsetting Windows 10, and that's about all those laptops will do. But if somebody wanted, they could load Chrome OS on it, just use it as a Chromebook, you know, email, that type of thing. Not something I want to set up for everybody, you know what I mean? But I mean, that would be their options. And,
Here's an inventory, first of all,
okay.
you know, go from there. They've been on the shelf for a while. So,
And then with other things like what John and Cody have to work, and maybe you could work with them to come up with an inventory of stuff.
I know John said he had a few things too, so.
What about solutions? We're gonna go to a little lower level of.
Yeah, I think that's what we decided.
If it's a big deal, okay.
I mean, doing that, when we're bringing public health over, save money, by going to the lower end in our budget to have public health in there, so. Just makes sense, so.
All right, anything else, Bernie?
No, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 14, review action regarding resolution number 15-25 for the American Rescue Plan Act funds allocation.
We still have to go back up to 9 and 10 or so.
Oh, we skipped over them, didn't we? Okay. Number 9, review action, we'll do number 9 first. Review action regarding terminating the 2080 Cerro Gordo ending June 30, 2025. I think Todd did a good job of explaining that to us. Anyone have any questions about that?
motion, right?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we terminate the 2080 with Cerro Gordo County ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr. Any other discussion or more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Number 10, review action regarding the 2080 with Benton and Floyd County collection of delinquent court obligations. We're just going from Cerro Gordo to Benton County, but better terms for us. Entertain a motion for that.
I would move that we enter into a 2080 agreement with Benton County to do Floyd County collections as starting July 1st.
Second, motion by Carr, second by Campbell to enter into a 2080 Benton and Floyd County collection of delinquent court obligations. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed. Effective July 1st. Okay. Now down to 14.
Okay, so you have in your packet, I've got a copy of one if you'd like to see it as well. You have in your packet. Yeah. March 31st is the end of the reporting period for American Rescue Plan Act through the US Treasury. And so you noticed in your claims today, you did that last one with ARPA dollars for the Samuels group that was approved last week, was in this week's claims. So this has everything now, 100% as of today, 100% of our ARPA dollars are spent. That's an accounting of what projects were approved and when they were, when the projects occurred. I had hoped on Friday that I could go in and do the final ARPA report, but they haven't opened it up yet. So I'm sure after today they'll get that released, but they didn't have it available. That'll be the last part of it. But all of our dollars are gone.
Is the recorder's project done, the digitizing?
Yep.
It is, okay.
Recorders and auditors, yep. Everything on here is completed.
So we need to sign that, Morgan and I do. So anyway, we need to pass a resolution. If you don't have any questions.
Well, I'm gonna back up. Everything is done. I'm just looking at that last one with Wicks Construction sidewalk projects.
Mhm.
The 26,300 has been paid, but we're holding back on, because they have to come back and they didn't kind of fill in these corners that they tore up on the sidewalk, and they don't have the painting across the street done. But that's not in this money.
The walking, or the walk across the street,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the wiring for the Samuels group and that wire, that little heater thing up in the first floor. That's still out there, but that's been paid, but the 76,000 last payment that we made, 74 or whatever that was today that we paid out of ARPA funds, that's done.
So we paid them before they finished their work.
The only thing was that wiring.
Will they come back and do that? That's Paulson, right?
Sid Samuels is supposed to get back to us and see if he was gonna contact Paulson's to see what the status. My understanding was, Young Plumbing, it was their part of the project. And they were, my understanding back at the time was they were going to sub Paulson to do the wiring to get that unit to work. So it was Young Plumbing's deal. But Sid said, that we aren't gonna have anything to pay for it. He's working that out with them. I mean, we're done paying as far as that goes. But he said if he doesn't, and I can follow up with him today too. If Paulson says, no, we're not gonna do it. He said if we wanted to do a local person, but it's gonna be paid for through that last little bit of $1,000, whatever, that they'll pay for it out of that. We aren't gonna have another bill for it.
I just hope it gets done.
I know, we were lucky that we didn't have a.
Yeah. So, any other discussion on this? I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 1535 for the American Rescue Plan Act funds allocation.
So that prepared it, do you want to make a motion?
You so eloquent.
So motion, can you make the motion?
I can make a motion to approve resolution 1525 for the American Rescue Plan Act funds allocations. Spending the $3,038,275.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to approve resolution number 15-25 the American Rescue Plan, Act funds allocation. We've spent it all. Morgan, will you call the roll?
Carr,
I,
Campbell,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye. All in favor, motion passed. Okay. We're gonna skip 16. No.
might formally do 15 as well.
15 is noting the assistant county attorney.
July 7th, right, Tom said.
Yep.
And what's his name? I don't know if I caught that.
Blake
I
Meyer,
don't know if he said it, but it's in the packet.
it's in the packet. Yeah.
What, Alex Meyer?
Blake,
Blake Meyer.
on page 18. So Randy is making,
With the 2.75 increase, he'd be making 102.
Yeah.
That year.
so we didn't get a chance to ask Todd questions. But is this person, does he have his law license? Or not?
My understanding that
I
it's,
think he does. Yeah, I think Todd told me he doesn't have it.
it's my understanding that he has not passed the bar yet, and that his tests are in July.
The tests are in July.
But you might confirm that with Todd.
Yeah, I might have misunderstood Todd too. I thought he did have it, but I'll verify it. Sure. Starts to officially July
Okay.
7th, 85,000. Does that include the 2.75 or not?
He wouldn't, I mean, that's
He
just where it
wouldn't
starts,
be
because he
qualified
starts in
for that.
July, so. That's just,
Okay.
he wouldn't have a 2.75.
We don't have this as any sort of action, it's noting it, and there's not gonna be any overlap from Randy and Blake. Cause we don't have a resignation from Randy yet, do we?
There's gonna be a gap when Todd won't have anyone though, because
Just June 30th to.
a week.
Or that's my understanding that Randy's resignation was, or retirement was going to be June 30th.
According to what Todd said today, July 1. I don't know how specific that was. but
Okay.
that's
So
what
there won't
Todd
be
said
any
today,
gap.
that there wouldn't be an overlap over the holiday. It'd be shortened.
And but he'd be an employee July 1 yet?
That's what Todd said today. I don't,
Okay.
but we don't have an official resignation Randy yet.
Tell us about your new clerk.
I've hired Jessica Hardwell.
So
as-
can we just go back on this one? Can we just find out before, I mean, we can note that he's made this offer, but can we just find out if the person, if, you know, we hired someone the last time that was, hadn't passed their bars. And then when they took their first test, they didn't pass their bars, so we were paying a wage for a part-time person at that time. It still wasn't an attorney, and I just would kind of like to know.
We don't have to take any action, it just says a note that, and Todd is comfortable that he's gonna come to work.
It says the offer is contingent on final approval of the Floyd County Board of Supervisors.
Yes, the copy of Todd's message to Mr. Meyer says this offer is also contingent on you passing the Iowa State Bar examination in July 2025.
Oh, okay, that makes sense, thanks. So, I'll check with Todd.
Okay.
And if he hasn't passed it,
I'll have to pass.
I'll determine, or, yeah. So this may be good.
So we could, the noted could just be on that effect, the board is. Proving it based on the contingency of passing the state bar. Yeah. But he's not gonna be taking the bar exam until after he starts.
He's not gonna take the exam until July, though, the way it sounds in that. Okay, I'll check with Todd, I'll follow up with him. So,
sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
That's okay. I am excited. I hired Jessica Hartwell to fill the part-time auditor clerk position. That she will be starting next April. Next Monday.
Not tomorrow then, huh?
Not tomorrow, she'll start Monday though. A week from today.
And will she be, is your intentions that she be working the 29 hours or?
Her current schedule lists out, I believe, like 27 something hours, but she's available for the 29 as needed. For instance, during election times and whatnot, that she'll be all hands on deck. It's 27 and a half. She's looking
And you just found out last week about her, right, Morgan?
Yeah, you were sitting with me.
Okay.
I think it's good to get that filled up and hopefully get some catching up on things and.
Item 17, future agenda items. I don't have anything that comes to mind right now.
I just, and I briefly mentioned about the general assistance options. I think we should have Gail come and talk to us and maybe get an update from public health anyway sometime. But have Gail come and talk to us to see how she sees general assistance fitting in her office, if we choose that option. And then maybe after that, if you want to explore anything else, like North Iowa Area Community Action, but I'd say if we start with Gail to see about filling that general assistance. And that could be sooner than July 1. If, some employees are leaving employment with county social services, if they have an opportunity, they're taking jobs. And so we want to make sure whenever it's going to start, that we've got something in place and see how Gail views this compensation for it or how that's.
It wouldn't hurt having her talk to us to bring us up to speed on this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, that would be all right.
Make a note of that, Morgan, you probably have already.
Anything else?
Mental health advocate is, that's kind of up in the air too. What I did learn after the meeting last week is that the whole relationship that we have currently for mental health advocate is Fayette County is the employer of record for, I think it's 5 or 6 counties for that mental health advocate staff. And so the way things have been, we've never paid for anything for it, because the advocate would just report it through Fayette County, and Fayette County would request the reimbursement from state or county social services.
We used to have some property tax that went to mental health, wasn't it 60 cents a thousand or something at one time?
Well, it used to be a mental health levy.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's gone away years ago, but this was mental health advocate. How it got created was that when all these regions, they're doing their mental health services, and originally that was the mental health regions would hire the advocate, but then the concerns of that were that if the advocate, their position is to advocate for the clients, and if they're employed by the same person that they're advocating for clients for, it's a little conflict there. And so that's why it was done this way. And so yeah, I just learned that it was Fayette. Her name is, our person is Angela, I can't remember the last name, but she's an employee of all the administration of it, and they've always gotten 100% reimbursement. What's kind of the year now with the mental health reform is this new system that they get the reimbursement from, the state, Iowa Primary Care, is, they will reimburse reasonable expenses, wages, and any expenses for that advocate. And so one of the things that's been talked about is the wages. What's too high of a wage for a mental health advocate that the state might not pay? And so I'm sure Fayette County is going to say, well, this has to be figured out because we're not going to be on the hook for something that's not going to get reimbursed. And so that needs to be a future agenda item sometime as well.
All right, let's take a short break and then we'll get into fiscal year 26 budget reviews.
Hey, Dennis, would you mind, since we've been skipping around, doing 19, and setting the public hearing for the budget? And then taking.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can do that.
Actually, our budget talk probably won't be very much this time.
And then however you'd like.
What do you want? You want to break up?
Yeah, just a short break.
Okay. Say that I don't like sitting down. I just think like it's on there all the time, yeah. But on top, the camera on top.
Could you look at that's how it broke down the spreadsheet into different things. I just wanted to make sure that the things that I associated with the project really were with the project. These I weren't 100% sure of.
Door access card readers that they just wanted an extra reader. So it wasn't because of the project, they just asked if they could have the other readers.
Okay.
Security camera upgrade, couldn't say that would be necessarily because of the project, except for that the security camera went up from that, the 8,000 number. The new system that we got, because of the law enforcement center required us, it wouldn't allow like what Bernie was talking about with the China cameras. So it is, but it was time to upgrade cameras anyway, so I don't know how you wanna put it. Those were just the cameras at the courthouse. And then the next one with door access card readers, that was just, I believe that one was just to request, let's do another reader. It's on the addition side, so that probably is, but it was an extra. And those ones, those two that were canceled, I just took them off of there because there was no. Courthouse electrical wiring project was kind of twofold. That was stuff that the courthouse had, or the district had. Getting new stuff and they needed new wiring. So that wasn't entirely for a project. That was the judicial system. If you've been in the courtroom, they've got all new speakers. That was all for that. That one, it's what we wiring that, it's part of the project because it's courthouse stuff, I suppose. It was stuff that, that fiber data chase outlet. There was another option, but they decided this was a better option, so they put it in there.
Like South sold laundry acreage. Oh, yeah, right there.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Mennonite, I guess.
They did, really. Must cut down enough that they won't have much for, other than the house. They're not very good.
The house isn't real big either.
No,
It's an A-frame, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And even more exactly.
And there's even,
Yeah.
they sent us a bill long, like
No,
a year
they
ago,
don't.
and I said, I'm not paying this bill because you haven't done your completion yet. And they said, oh yeah, we don't expect you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen higher hair of
They
them
probably
before.
don't use them.
I don't know how long. And so they even said, okay, we're ready to do this. I don't know, they didn't pay yet because they haven't come up with a station for the Apple Valley. So
You're recommending them highly to all the other counties.
absolutely, very high on my stay away list. Oh, but I can
It's 331.
look it up. Yep.
Okay, are we ready for the budget? Reviews. We're just gonna have you review them, Morgan, and then re-listen, or?
I don't know, you guys, I did not get any information of any changes from any of you this week, so I haven't changed anything. Several of you are gonna go out and talk to department heads and different groups on wages and things like that, so if you have anything maybe to report on that, it's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Where do you wanna go next?
So we can talk on the wages with the meetings that we had with Jesse and Amy and Morgan and I. Jesse is good with Sherry getting paid up to that $24. Amy was good with Jen getting paid that $24. But do you want to explain anything about the levels in the auditor's office, or you want me to?
Why don't you try to, and then I'll jump in and try.
Okay. So the two clerks in the auditor's office were originally, okay, I'm gonna start with the treasurer's office. Treasurer's has one deputy. The comparable kind of person in the auditor's office would be Amanda, only she's not a deputy because they took away deputies through attrition. The next level in the treasurer's office are the person that works with the two Lisas. that one works, with the, they have different tasks. One works with the, vehicle registration. I got somebody talking on the phone. And
that? Hello? Who is that?
could you mute your phone, please?
We muted here.
I don't think you can mute them. It means us,
All right.
I think.
Just turn it off.
Maybe, probably not. Oh, maybe not. Okay, so there's that deputy assistant level, and then there's the
Amanda.
two leases that were, one does vehicle registration and the other one does administration alongside of Jesse, like the property tax side and the finance side of that office. And then there's a clerk that is support primarily, I think, for the vehicle registration side, maybe some others as well. I don't remember how Sherry's spread out. And so when we talked this $24 thing, what got behind is the two clerks in the auditor's office, because they have very specific duties, like in the treasurer's office, where there's, one specifically is tasked with elections and drainage, and the other is tasked with the finance side of things, with doing
We're talking about Lexi and
Lexi
Jennifer.
and Jen, yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, to recap so far what Gloria has said, is originally there were 3 deputies over the treasurer's department, and she kind of listed out the different departments that they ran. They have other people that help assist because they have a lot more foot traffic, so they need more people. In the auditor's office, essentially Lexi and Jen's positions were originally deputy positions because they oversee, one of them oversees real estate and elections, and one of them oversees finances. And so they're more of
Does
deputy
Lexi do the
positions.
finances? And
Yeah. Yep.
Jennifer, the other one.
Yep, Jennifer does the elections and the real estate. So essentially they would be, had deputies not been taken away, or that title been taken away, all 3 of them would be deputies. So that if we're going to start comparing and talking this bucket, they should be compared to the other, if we're gonna actually do this whole comparing across halls, they should be compared to the others who are in that like position, who would have been deputies, thus deputies still been.
The intent of the board was to only have one in that deputy level pay, and the others underneath that, and then the board. They're all called clerks now underneath under the deputy side of it, but to have, there's 3 tiers, I guess, is what we're trying to say. And putting those tasks that the 2 clerks in the auditor's office have as that $24 cap is shortchanging them to compare to where they are with champions of specific areas of work that they do.
So I think we all probably got a nice report from Lexi telling us what her job duties and responsibilities are, and she wants, what kind of a raise? $2?
What she asked for in that email.
That's not where our conversation went the other day.
In the email to you guys, I believe she said that 26 would be more reasonable of a request than 24. That's not really where our conversations have gone since then, I guess.
So
where have the conversation's gone? 25?
Something differentiated than the rest of the people within the bucket.
Above the 24. And we had no, Amy and Jesse didn't have any qualms with that. They understood that process. Would you agree with that? They saw that. that differential between those positions.
What about Jennifer? Same?
Which Jennifer are you talking?
And,
So, and I think what would probably be ideal, when, a lot of times positions have a range. We don't necessarily have that range, but I think if we put the cap that says, you know, 25 an hour or whatever, then it gives that elected official or department head that option to say, like Brandy said at her conference board meeting, we put 24 in the budget for Caitlin, but Brandy said it's her discretion if she wants to put her up to that 24 or not. And I think that's where it would be Morgan's choice. I suggest we put 25 per hour in the budget for the two, but it's Morgan's choice to, if she feels they're ready to be bumped up to that level. They'll both have 2 years of service starting this month or next month. As their anniversary. May, yeah. But so, and then that's the talk on the sheriff's side. You want to talk about that part of it? Yeah.
About the sheriff's assistants.
The assistants.
Amanda, Melissa, or Manessa, Melissa.
That goes hand in hand with it, you know, they are also clerks or assistants within their department, so trying to figure out where they compare with the rest of the group that is in that same bucket as well. And I know Jeff came in and explained like how they get to that position. But if I don't know, I don't understand necessarily if they're not keeping that training to be able to help in the jail, how that hierarchy kind of still is in place. If that makes sense.
Jeff was asking for $29, and when I met with him, I said, that's not gonna happen.
No, but the 2.75 raise for them is 24.25.
That's where they're at now.
That would be the 2.75 raise for
Right.
the two in that
That's
office.
just, 2.75, give them a 24 and a quarter. Something, right? Yeah. And the jailers are getting 22 right now, maybe one at 27.
It's at 25 currently.
Or-
And I'm not saying I understand everyone's jobs, and I think that I know their duties well enough to try to price them by any means. Just when all these people have gotten thrown in the same bucket, it's really hard to continue to compare across ways. What is the difference?
And then what did the 5.5 do for the two employees in public health? Where's that with Marty and Katie?
Katie with a 5.5 raise goes to 25.50 and Marty goes to 24.03. Raises.
And in my conversation with Gail, she's really, if you know, that difference from 2.75 to 5.5 for those two employees. I talked to her about, the board wants you to come down that value. And the preference would be, just because of all this variation we have in all these offices, to be those something closer to, so we don't have this disparity among.
Has there always
all of
been this kind of disparity in the courthouse for the wages? I mean, you've been here 20
When they were
years.
deputies, no, because the deputies were what the deputies were. Right, when it got put to an hourly rate, it kind of changed things up a bit. And then, like with conservation and Board of Health, they're autonomous boards. So I mentioned before how one year the county did a 1.5 and they did 5%.
The Board of Health did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the board said, take this out, the difference between 1.5 and 5 and bring it down, bring the budget down. And they chose to keep it in wages and cut it out of the rest of the budget. And
These other departments can't do that?
what's that?
The sheriff probably can't.
No, you set by code, you set the wages for it. Yeah. I wish that that, I wish those boards, other autonomous boards weren't that way with the wage side of it. I wish it was consistent, that there's one one level that sets the wages.
So if this levy increase goes up by 1.75%, that's still not enough to cover these raises, or is it if we go to $25 for Lexi and Jennifer and, I mean, what can we do and not break the bank, I guess? You know, we gotta be fair.
I think Gloria noted one thing that would be more helpful in making it fair is setting the max wage for each one and letting the department head choose. You know, if they feel, you know, maybe letting me have the opportunity to go up to $25 an hour with my two ladies, but then me choosing at what point between 24 and 25 that I put them at.
Yeah.
And that could be an option.
And I would say the same for Jeff. The max for the two secretaries would be 25. With his jailers, the max being 25. And then I would talk to Gail and see if she would do the same with Katie being 25 and Marty being 24. Or somewhere up to, maybe Marty's up to 25 also. It's in the budget, yeah, but with her knowing that she's got to reduce that difference in there, she may be receptive to.
We gotta, and I know you've said the date, I can't think of it, but we have to put an end to this pretty quick, don't we?
I don't think the budget numbers are going to change much. They're not going to increase because you've got 25 in there already. And you've got for the jailers, you've got 25 in for the secretaries, and you've got Gail's 5.5% in.
Yeah.
And there's going to be, you've got 24 in for the two in the auditor's office, so that one would be up a little bit. But if Gail comes down a little bit on hers, it's not going to change the tax dollar askings or the levy rates in the budget.
So you're proposing telling department head what their max is, like, and make the decision, right?
Yeah, you put some of the weight back on the department head.
That's,
I mean, don't get me wrong, if it's being in an uncomfortable position, if I choose not to give the full 25.
That might make it more awkward on their side.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But yeah,
mhm.
but I think,
What do you think of that?
but the department head knows best where they fit for.
Right.
Are they?
Obviously, the department head knows their personnel better than we do.
Morgan's still learning, probably.
I am still learning.
Yeah, and Adam's gonna have the same problem. I mean, and again, it's pretty hard to balance the budget just on wages, you know. That the whole thing was grand. Maybe that's more fair, you know, or not to department heads, but set that and let them decide. You know. There's the assessor's office.
Caitlin?
Yeah, we got her to figure out, and then there's Jen and the
Recorder,
you know,
or the auditor.
she's paid out of
Yeah,
3.
911 and,
Oh, Jennifer,
yeah, some.
Bernie's wife.
Yeah, so how do you, you know,
Well, the other. Jennifer, whoever makes the decision, and I'm trying to think if it's 9/11 planning and zoning and Senate and Board of Health. If the Board of Health has the biggest piece of her salary.
No, 911 does, but
911.
911 doesn't set wages. You just, the supervisors
Yeah.
person, and they can make recommendations.
So whatever 911 decides, the other two are gonna go along.
No, in this case, Board of Health decided. They're autonomous.
Board of Health is autonomous so that they can set their own wages, even though they only pay 35%.
Yeah, 35 for Board of Health, 25 for zoning, and 40 for.
9/11.
So it's between the supervisor, because you guys have said 2.75. And it doesn't sound like that got brought up to the Board of Health meeting, that's what the supervisors had wanted to do. And so they.
And I don't think that 9/11 has even met and talked about it, probably your wages.
Then they did their hearings. They didn't make any recommendations or anything.
That's what I mean.
But, yeah, and so because it wasn't decided at this level, and their budget is due earlier, 24 was put in the budget. But that's still at the discretion of board if that's what that wage is going to be. Except for that, you throw in that autonomous
No
board.
exceptions here. That,
that has-
Makes things easier. Right?
yeah. So we gotta pass along the fact that next year won't be even this easy, I don't think, you know.
2% growth
So,
and
yeah.
make a difference. Yeah.
But we have to move along. And make it makes more sense.
To let the department heads
But
figure it out.
yeah, give them a ledger or whatever. Let them figure out how to do it. Pass the buck.
And once they're engaged at that level, they may realize how hard it is to be fair.
I don't know how somehow it'll never come out fair. You know?
So are you okay with that, Morgan? Having department heads? And that would be the recorder's office, your office, treasurer's office.
Assessors, board,
No, that's already set.
autonomous.
The sheriff,
Sheriff secretaries and jailers.
who sent the sheriff's office? But who's gonna make that decision? We would, right?
You would set that cap part.
Yeah.
And then let them make it in.
Say, all those elected officials that you just named, same thing. You, outside of bargaining unit, you would set those caps. So I think 27 for the lead jailer and 25 for the jailers and the secretaries would be the direction for Jeff. That's the max he could do. The max for 24 for that clerk level position, the one position in the recorder's office and the one position in the treasurer's office, and then 25.
Conservation come into play here too.
Conservation is autonomous also.
And not elected, okay.
With the expectation that the department head chooses what they feel is best, not just give them the maximum. Right? Like, that the department head uses their discretion to decide what is best fit for their employee up to your, whatever cap you're giving them.
Yes,
But it's not the requirement,
right.
and that other department heads also consider truly what they think that person is needing to be paid, and take on that sort of freedom appropriately, and not just throw out the cap just because it's there. Helps with budgeting for next year too.
So I'm interpreting what you're saying, if, let's use the sheriff, for example. The sheriff says, okay, I want Manissa and Melissa. I want, Melissa's got more years in, or Manissa has more years than Melissa, and he might say, okay, I want to give Manissa 25 and I want to give Melissa 24.50. That'd be his prerogative to do so, but the most he could give Melissa would be 25. And the most he could give the jailers would be 25, but he might have a new one starting that he's only going to pay 24 to start with, and then bump them up to 25 when he feels they're at that level.
Makes more sense.
I think so.
Put a
Right?
cap on it.
And we need to know this by when? When do we have to have this filed with the state? Middle of April?
Has to be in the note, your dollars have to be locked in
Very soon.
by
So the
the
next item,
14th, so she can get it to the newspaper for a hearing on the 14th.
so that would be the next item is we need to schedule the hearing and then you play back your timeline from there. So for instance, the 24th of April, I believe, has been thrown out for a hearing date. I think it's the 24th. And that means at the very latest, we have to turn a publication in by the 14th to the department.
All of these numbers that you see that she's provided in these reports, she's got several line items she has to enter on the Department of Management's website for that publication of the budget. So if we could nail this part of it down, and then I do have to, I have to bring up, we discovered in the budget process that, Bernie has asked for a couple thousand extra. Well, when we were sitting here at one of these budget reviews, looking at the numbers, and I'm looking at the budget sheet and Morgan's mentioning the 70,000 number that he was at. I pulled the information from the auditor's office from a year ago when we said this. And, I think there was a request for like 11% increase or something like that for Bernie last year. We played with those numbers so much. One of the line items that when the budget was certified, he was 67,137 or something like that. But we had it up to 70,000. What we ended up putting in our system was 70,000. The spreadsheet that we had a 70,000 number, but off to the side, there was a note, 8% was approved, and this is 67,137 or whatever it was. So Bernie has been overpaid at this time. So I did talk to Bernie about that and saying, so he's okay with not getting the extra 2,000 and just getting the 2.75 because he's been getting about that equivalent this year already. So what we would need to do is recertify his wages to the 70,000, or we could adjust the last several pay periods to get them down to the 67,000. But I think the easiest is to recertify to the 70 and only give them the 2.75 next year.
I agree with that. He said he's okay with that.
He was okay with that. He said if I got the money early, he was okay with that.
Just do it. Yep.
Yeah.
We'll agree with that one.
Yeah, okay. So Thursday, the 24th is a Thursday, and that's when it needs to be publicized. Is that what you're saying?
14th is the last board meeting that she could make any changes.
The 13th?
14th.
Yeah, why did we talk about the 24th then?
For the budget hearing?
That's a Thursday. Or just.
No, we talked about the end of the month. Can I steal your first here?
Yep.
So that puts her at the minimum 10 days. I mean, if we're setting it for that last Monday or Tuesday in April, which I don't know what that is right now, you would have to have it to the North Springs Register by noon on Monday, the 14th.
Well, let's go ahead. Let's get this done.
I agree with you, Boyd. We haven't been kicking the can down the road, but it's been a long road.
Yeah, I'm ready to make a decision here.
Well,
You know,
I'm pretty favorable to Morgan and Gloria's suggestion of letting the department heads give them a max and let them make the decision, is what you're suggesting, right? Are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
And that can help out with next year.
And you guys can figure out what the maximum is, or do we have to?
No, you have to decide.
Yeah, we decided that.
I mean,
So,
the department head's already gonna be the bad guy if you give a $25 maximum and we decide we're only giving $24.50. We're already gonna be the bad guy, so we're not setting the maximum too.
And I think they're maybe we can plan ahead for next year a little better to do these ranges. You know, somebody just starting out versus somebody been here
Right,
for,
yeah.
Could the maximum be 25? Does it have to be an even dollar? Could it be 25.50? Maximum?
Well, we just want to make sure.
I think you're
we fit in
gonna-
the budget.
It could be, but I don't think I would recommend going over 25 because then you're gonna start changing numbers further, much further than what we're already changing.
Yeah.
That's
And then
assuming
we're
that they
looking You know, right, we gotta look at,
But this could be helpful for next year, like say a department head chose not to give that, but it's been budgeted this year, and if you only have a 2% increase next year, like there could be more room next year. I don't know that that's the most proper way to plan, but with some of the stuff that's been coming down the pipe with legislative, it might be
Oh,
a
that's
solution.
Right.
Not the solution, just a solution.
and I think with the only other thing that we have left for the budget, once these next wages are put in there, would be, Todd needs to still get us numbers for this collection stuff. He needs to tell us what those estimates are for collections and what that expense is going to be to pay it out for this year and for next year. This year, I mean, we put it in there or don't put it in there, but it's gonna be an amendment no matter what. But next year, he needs to give us numbers on what he thinks those collections are going to be.
and do we have it pinned down in the sheriff's office about one vehicle instead of two this year? Isn't that what he was talking about?
I never got any information about dropping to one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that didn't get changed in the budget, but it still could. He did get, looking back at, he got 3 vehicles with ARPA dollars.
a couple years ago, right? 2 or 3 years
I
ago.
think it was,
I was a supervisor, I think.
Well, anyway.
yeah, I think it was end of last year.
And I know they didn't like to talk about, not hiring another deputy when we have one retiring. But it would be helpful, instead of 2 vehicles, 1. Somewhere, we have to look hard at this.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Said anything about amending the budget at all this year?
Sure.
Yeah.
Me?
You guys, I'm
Well,
could go either way with it.
Todd was gonna check Saragordo County, and if they would let us pay that 57,000 or whatever it is till after the end of this fiscal year,
I'll call him.
then we could wait, we wouldn't have to amend this year's budget, correct?
We're gonna have to amend the budget anyway. I would say just get it done.
Okay.
We've had the money, just get it done. We always do a budget amendment in May. We're gonna have one to do, and
Or are we gonna do one before the end of this fiscal year?
we usually
May,
wait till about, they have to be done before by April or June 1st. So we usually have it like the last meeting day in May. I think, doesn't it look like, was it juvenile probation or one of those was gonna be, like it was gonna be
Our team is very close.
20.
Operation, one other one. Attorney. Who else was in that first appropriation change?
Yeah. I think the supervisors are probably going to have to amend because of meeting cost or supervisor meeting costs. It's gonna be close, I think, anyways. By the time you get that bill pay that bill for publications of the mailing notice, which that was another thing that was talked about during that legislative session that I thought was interesting, that Senator Dawson thinks that there's gotta be a better way to do this mailing than to mail all these notices out, and whether it be some sort of electronic notification or a postcard that you mail to, instead of this
Yeah.
letter, and the postcard says, go to the site for more information.
Yeah, we could get more help on their end.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they lowered that. That's been like $1 million bill across the state of Iowa just for those notices.
Well, okay.
But I think then that does it, doesn't it?
We need to talk to the sheriff then about, you know, are we gonna do 1 car or 2 cars, right? Dennis, you have,
Yeah, I can
we
find
have
out.
some rapport with him, you know?
Yeah, I don't think we'll get any pushback on the car, but we will on not hiring a deputy.
Yep, I know.
So,
And I can understand that, yet if this 2% goes through and we have some things that, you know, shoot us out of the water, we lay somebody off, huh?
well,
I mean, basically, I want all the department heads to understand that. I don't want to end up like Chickasaw County, we don't have to. Just shooting a shot over the bow, okay? I think that's reasonable.
the 22nd is the hearing.
No,
No,
only if you have your budget done for her by Monday, would that work?
Yeah.
22nd might have been the window of the earliest and the latest you could have it to meet the.
But we
if the-
can
if
settle on this today on the $25 gap, okay?
yeah, I think we've done that. We've all,
Okay.
Yep.
we're all on the
So
same
we can
page with that.
Get that all done.
So-
And,
I mean, that's where the sheriff has to know this is it.
yeah, this is it, we gotta know.
The vehicle is in there, 2 vehicles are in there, that's general fund, that's sitting okay. But I appreciate what you're saying here, in that we need to preserve for next year also. That would give us, if we took that vehicle out, that'd give us 50
60,000,
60,000
67,000, I thought, you know,
in,
by the time we
in general
reallocated
fund.
it, you know. And that brings to mind, that was also moving 2 deputies from the rural to the general, or, yeah,
Not rural, moving the civil deputy out of supplemental to general. Yeah,
okay.
rural deputies are where they're at.
They get paid a secondary road, right, or
Rural services.
Rural services. Okay, we can agree on that? Okay.
You potentially could adjust the budget with the county attorney, with the assistant county attorney at 85,000, and maybe there's an increase in there as well. Or just leave it as it is, I don't know.
Well,
Both is
we may not pass the bar, and that may save us a couple weeks.
Randy was he at a 6-figure salary, 104 or 5?
His 2.75% raise for fiscal year 26 would have put him at like 102,000.
Understood. Okay. So roughly 15 grand savings of the new one if he passes the bar. Well, it all adds up. I mean,
Did we ever figure out ours? Wages for the
2.75,
2.75, okay, make sure that's right.
auditor, treasurer, recorder, attorney, no, the attorney was 9, that's, the attorney we've got 933, don't we?
Attorney,
I don't think so.
You have them at less?
Thing that from what I was told in past meetings, everybody except for sheriff got bumped to 2.75. So Todd is at only 2.75. That's what was discussed.
sounds good. Stamp it.
Okay. And then sheriff is at 8%.
you're gonna do anything different there. 'Cause
What's
that-
that?
The sheriff at 8%.
Yeah, we weren't, well, we went down from 9.33 to 8, right?
And we're talking about 5.5, right?
But we locked a lot of
Right,
numbers in there.
yeah,
Talked about
5.5.
7.
That's good.
7.
yeah.
Will that work, Morgan?
What are you asking me?
Yeah, she's in the,
I'm concerned with the back of blue of doing this fine.
well, but we got some time to make that up too,
Well, the
right?
back to blue was one of those unfunded mandates.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I don't know that we need to.
This, I just think this would fit better. I mean, honestly, you know, with the country. Well,
You know, Jeff was, when I visited with him, we talked about back to blue and his comment was, yeah, I know it's there and I can benefit from it, but he says, I want my people to be taken care of first. And I think he meant deputies and the staff, the jailers and.
well, they'll come along with him, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He didn't expect it, I don't think, overnight, you know, to get bumped up to, the comparables.
We don't have the comparables.
We don't have, so, somehow
Well, yeah, you know, the city of
next year we
Indiana,
gotta
the city of Newton, and
have a
The
better
comp
way.
board didn't do the rest of the work. Because it's not just back to blue, it's the back to blue checking those cities, but it's also in state, out of state, private sector, public sector. I mean, there'd be nothing wrong with checking local PD even. Throwing in the bucket there. I don't know if I'm comfortable with 5.5.
What would you think of it? We went to 8, it wouldn't be, we went 9.3 to 8. 5.5.
6.5?
6.5. You drive a hard bargain. We're gonna get this done.
What's your final answer?
6.5.
6.5.
For sure.
Well, sure.
Because that does help that.
Yeah,
rural-
Okay.
That does help the rural services
That
because
will help a
that's so tight.
But
And we're already reducing in the rural services that road clearing
right.
and we've got the libraries at 275, I think, is where we left the libraries, right? We've got just $1,000 increase for area development corp.
What about Todd Pritchard or Todd Shriver?
Todd Schreiber's been set at the 50,000 since the first day you
Okay,
guys
that
got.
hasn't changed.
No, that has not changed. He brought his comparables and you guys stuck it that first day.
Can't think of anything else, Morgan.
Some of the letters.
I think we could probably have everything wrapped up. You let Morgan know about that vehicle, if you're taking the vehicle out or not. And,
I worked on adjusting these early this week.
and then if,
Put a priority on early this week, so you guys can see them, go over them, and then next Monday, if you guys could set.
I would say if we, take all of this, get that number from Todd for this year, next year on the collection stuff, and, then we could get everything, we could do it on the state forms, and the budget would be ready, so you could get it to the newspaper a little earlier if we can get the blessing on.
We officially set the the budget.
Yep. So we're going to Tuesdays.
Tuesday's on the 22nd, right?
No, 22nd is too early. It doesn't give it the 10 days. I mean, you might be going to
No,
Tuesday meetings,
yeah,
but
that's what
budget
you're saying.
hearing, she's looking for
Oh,
a budget hearing day.
Budget,
And per maybe the request of, hear me out. A lot of the comments that I received on our last public hearing was people frustrated with the time that was chosen. Would you guys consider a different time?
8:30, they didn't like that, did they? So it's pretty hard for us to have it in conjunction with one of our weekly meetings if we don't do it in the morning, unless we do it now.
I don't think that's any better.
It wouldn't be
What
any
do you-
better. I think, although they're not real popular, maybe an evening, 6:30 or something.
No, don't go that late.
Not 6:30.
Like 4:30 or something like that. You have to go 6:30. I mean, you could have your whole board meeting that day. We've done that before, where we haven't had a separate meeting just for the budget. Just changed everything to, I think we did like 4 o'clock, so then if we had any department heads,
So
they were on the agenda for the top of it, and then the hearing would be later.
what's the date, the 14th, right?
That's the latest I can get my public notice.
The hearing, if you're talking having it in an evening, the 28th, on Monday, the 28th, or the 29th. If you're talking an evening, and then just tie your regular board meeting in with it rather than having 2 meetings. That first notice, the hearing that we had, that was required by Iowa law that it has to be a separate meeting. Your budget hearing, actual budget hearing can be in conjunction with your regular meeting.
So on the 29th, we have a regular board meeting at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then the budget will follow.
Yeah.
Here.
Yep, you just say, your meeting, if you're saying your
Yep.
meeting time is 4 o'clock, but your budget hearing's 4:30 or 5 o'clock, or,
On Tuesday, the 29th.
Yeah.
BOS meeting at 4 o'clock. Followed by public hearing.
What time? Public hearing at 5:15, 5 o'clock.
I don't know, maybe.
5.
Do we even wanna, so how about Lexi for processing claims? Do we do it a little bit earlier that we start, so you can get claims going a little bit earlier?
I guess I don't. The 3 o'clock then? Or is that still not enough time for Lexi?
Whatever. I'm shooting in the dark here. We need,
BOS at 3 o'clock then? Is that what you're saying, Morgan?
did that give you more time?
And we'll see if we get attendance, and if it's, sometimes we get attendance at budget hearings, sometimes we don't. Last year, I think it was on last year, if you remember, Dennis, on the post budget, we had 2 people that came, and they thought they got their note, they said that it was husband and wife, they came and they thought that they had to come because it was notice they got.
I guess I'd be surprised if we have the attendance that we did for this one here in this room a week ago.
Especially since we've lowered it.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion about
So-
that, so.
What do you think, guys?
Let's do, the the 29th, the Board of Supervisor meeting at 3 p.m. Followed by the public hearing, and it could be at 4, or, I mean, sometimes our meetings go more than an hour.
Yeah.
But
You can start your hearing later. I mean, it's all within the same meeting. You just couldn't, if we got done with everything by
they're set to.
3:45, we couldn't start the hearing.
To 4 anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Would 4:30 be unreasonable to start the public hearing and give us an hour and a half for a board meeting? Or do you want to stick with 4 and then start later if we have to. We just can't start early.
Right.
I asked Lexi, and the latest for the regular meeting she could do is at 3:30. So that she could get them out on the same day to print the claims for your regular meeting beforehand. After that, the time you set for your public hearing is up to you.
Let's do 3 and 4, 3 o'clock
3
for
o'clock,
the meeting, 4:30 for the budget.
okay, 3 o'clock.
Okay, 3 and 4:30. 3 for the Board of Supervisors and 4:30 for the public hearing. How many times have you had to change that, Ben? Got a good eraser?
Oh, okay, that sounds.
Are we good?
The motion and do the works.
I make a motion that we set the fiscal year 26 budget hearing for April 29th at 4:30 PM in this room or the EOC, this room,
Yes, she's just wrong.
in this, in the boardroom.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell to set the date of April 29th for the public budget hearing at 4:30 PM. All in favor, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Campbell to adjourn, second by Carr. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Guess the guy she's upstairs, Morgan.